Folks, hello and welcome to Dun 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 Talking Crit. Uh, you have myself, Eric Tenkar, with me as always every Wednesday without fail. There's none other than Bad Mike Battleotto.
And we don't get enough credit for that. We have not missed a week, and I believe it is a year at this point,
You know,
unless we
yeah,
missed something around Christmas or Thanksgiving that I don't remember, which I don't think we did.
I don't think we did either, but
Mm.
we've been doing pretty solid with that.
Yeah,
And go figure. It's like, wow, gee, Eric's been hospitalized 3 times this year. Let's get something consistent so he can't be hospitalized anymore.
that
So
was
that
the
was
funny. That was the funniest thing we planned this because you had been sick so much in 2020, and I don't know what we thought was going to happen because I'm thinking. I had this weird feeling though. I had a good feeling, Eric. I thought you were past it. I thought, this is it. We're going to be able to meet every week. It's not going to be a problem. I don't know why. I just had this weird feeling that you're past it. You're not going to be sick anymore. And so I'm glad we did it because turns out that you haven't. And I dodged everything too. So
yeah, no, you know, have I been pretty healthy for the last year? Yes. 2020, I was hospitalized 3 times, and there was no COVID in the mix. That's what blows my fucking mind.
you can never say you survived COVID because you haven't had COVID yet. I know.
To the best of my knowledge, no, I have not had COVID.
Mm.
So, as folks may notice, we don't have a special guest this week.
Well,
And
sometimes we don't have a special guest.
right.
We didn't try this week. We didn't even try. I didn't talk to
No,
you.
I didn't even try either. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. There were enough balls being juggled in the air that it was not one of the balls that I wanted to throw into the mix. Now, part of the balls being juggled was Rich and I getting a new car.
That's true, and I had just as exciting a week because I had a colonoscopy yesterday.
I
So
would rather get the new car than
you
get the
think so?
colonoscopy.
It's a toss up for me because it was exciting, and having your bowels invaded was just just I don't know. It's magic. Okay, it's just magic. But I did. If I can talk about it for just a second, I did this because I have not had a colonoscopy in 7 years, which is probably a little too long at my age. I'm 58. And seeing what happened to Doug, for those that don't know, our buddy Doug Ray put off having a colonoscopy for quite a while. And when he went in, he had stage 4 colon cancer. He did manage to last another 4 or 5 years, but in the end, it took him down. But it was absolutely miserable. He had the test in December. They found stage 4 colon cancer, immediately put him on the operating table like 2 or 3 days later. And they're going to try to get rid of this cancer, right? So they operate on him. They go in there. The guy's like, there's too much cancer. Can't take it out. And it's messed up in his intestines. So they sewed him back up. Said, well, we can't do anything for you there. We're just going to do chemo and hope we can shrink it with chemo. And so for the next 4 years, he did chemo every 2 weeks for 4 years. And I just didn't, that's my worst fear. When you're going for colonoscopies, they're going to find something like that. And they did not find that. They found a bunch of polyps, which last time I went in 7 years ago, I had one polyp. This time I had multiple, which isn't great, but they're not, the guy said they look benign. They're probably not cancerous or anything.
Right.
Took out a bunch of them because they can take them out with their cool little lasers and lights and stuff. I had some other issues too. A lot of it can be it's probably stress related. He said, I've got hemorrhoids. I've got stomach ulcer. They did endoscopy too, and that's probably stress related, honestly, because of all that's been going on with Doug and everything lately. So I'm glad I did it because it's better to know than not know. I know some people don't. They're like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. You really want to know. You really want to know because if Doug had gone in 2 years earlier, and let's say he had colon cancer stage 1, he'd be here. I mean, he would be here. I mean, it's matter of fact, if he had anything below stage 4, he probably would be here still. If you wait too long, this is what happens. And, at a certain age, you just got to do this, man. It's unpleasant as all hell. There's nothing like the day before when you have to fast, then you have to drink that disgusting stuff and just crap your guts out. There's nothing worse than that. It's so gross, but you just got to do it because that one day will save you a lifetime of wondering, well, what's going on down there? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, And you've had your colonoscopy too, right? You've had
no,
one.
no. Here's the thing. Because of the World Trade Center Health Program, I get that shit. Am I using that term correctly? For free. And I went for my pre-appointment, like I don't know, 2, 3 years ago. And then I chickened out and doing the follow-up. So
Mhm.
no, I have to do it.
Yes, you do,
And
sir.
after
You must.
and after Doug, I got to follow up on that for sure. Now, and the whole thing of like shitting
Well,
your
well,
guts out. I mean, I've been doing that with my metformin way too
well,
often. So
you have a bit of an excuse because you were hospitalized almost all last year, and I'll be honest with you, they probably would have found something by now if something was going on down there because you have been
oh,
poked and prodded and investigated. Every inch of your
yeah,
disgusting body has been examined
yeah.
at this point. So you're probably more okay than somebody like Doug was, who never went to the doctor ever because he just didn't like doctors. He didn't want to go, so he just never
Well, like,
went.
but Mike, who and nothing against any of the people in the medical profession. All right,
Mhm.
I dated a nurse for years, and when I say a nurse, somebody that worked in intensive care. I believe me. Um, but the medical profession is generally people like, yeah, you fuckers only give bad news. So I don't know if I really want to be around you all that often.
And I perfectly understand that. I have a lot of friends that are physicians. I personally, I go see the doctor every 3 or 4 months for my testing because I'm diabetic and I do all my tests. You know, check my hemoglobin HC, blah blah. And I just got into a rhythm where I do it now. It doesn't, it doesn't. I'd rather because I'm that person. So when I was a kid, this is a true story. When I was a kid, I opened all my presents before Christmas. I
Uh,
would I was a master at that. I could undo the entire package,
and then rewrap
play with the toy, then
it.
wrap it back up, and you wouldn't notice. That's how good I was, because I can't stand not knowing stuff. And so for me, even though you like you said, news is usually bad news, I can't not know. The not knowing to me is much worse than actually knowing, because a lot of times it gives you, when you find something out, it gives you peace of mind. I know when I got really sick 30 years ago. Unbeknownst to me, I had a really bad flu, and unbeknownst to me, it killed my pancreas. So I was
Oh shit!
diabetic at that point. So I went months with having probably blood sugar around 800, 900. It's usually, you want to keep it around 60 or 70 or 80. Mine was probably around 800, 900 because I was just, whatever I was consuming sugar wasn't the pancreas wasn't dealing with it. And
Right,
I had headaches, I had migraines, I had problems seeing, I would hallucinate, I would throw up. I mean, I was just so sick, and I thought I had cancer. I mean, I really thought I had cancer because I was just so sick. When I finally got medical coverage and I went in and they told me I had diabetes type 1, I was like, "Oh, thank goodness." They're like, "Oh, it's a terrible disease." I said, "I know, but I just wanted to know. I thought it was cancer. I mean,
right,
you're telling me I have diabetes. That's horrible and I have to take shots for the rest of my life, this, that, but it's not cancer." I thought I was going to die. I thought I was dying. That's how
right.
sick I
It,
was.
it, it, it could have been so much worse. Listen. I understand that too. When I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, well, first off, the surgeon that did the biopsy, when I had to go back to his office and get informed, wouldn't look me in the eyes when he gave me the
Mm,
diagnosis.
yeah, that's not
So,
good.
not for nothing, but F him. But when I went to my primary, and he was like, "Well, that's good news." I mean, what do you mean that's good news? He goes, I have a friend. Let me call him. Got me an appointment for the next day with an oncologist, and went with my mother because listen, you don't when you're in shock, when you're finding out that you've got this new illness that's going to last you potentially the rest of your life or limit
Mhm.
your life, you're like, "Ooh." I brought my mother along, and I wasn't listening. You're occupied in kind of like what's going on, but not in the now. And
Uh,
my mother's like, "You heard him, right?" I go, "Heard what?" He said, "We can cure this." I go, "This is cancer. You can't cure
It's actually
cancer."
one of the most treatable forms. It's actually
Yeah,
more one of the most treatable that.
yeah. He's like, "No, no." He goes, "This is good news. We can." We go, "This is good. We can cure this." It's like, oh, all right. Now, here I am. 15 years later, did I get congestive heart failure because of the radiation and chemo?
Maybe.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you know what? Again, like you, I see two cardiologists on a regular basis, an endocrinologist, an orthopedist, and I haven't seen my GP in a year and a half because everything has been covered. But I really should see him just to thank him because I'm here, and that's probably because of him. But yeah, I mean, you do. as you get older, it's kind of like taking care of an older car. It can still run very well, but you got to maintain it. You got to do the maintenance. You just can't go brand new car. It's like, all right, I probably don't have to check the oil for 6,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? When your car is at, like, I don't know, mine was 46,000, not that much actually, because all things considered, when I traded it in, my old car, you've got to do the 36,000 mile tune
Oh
up
yeah. Oh
kit,
yeah.
and change the filters, the oil change, inspect the brakes, rotate the tires, stuff that you don't have to worry about when the car is new. Well, that's just part of it. That's just part of the experience of getting old. And if you want to really experience getting old, do it all, and then you can be around for a nice long time. You
But
know,
so I had a day of recovery. I'm back. I got issues. They're gonna talk. They're gonna deal with it. I got to go. I'm going to see the gastroenterologist. Hopefully, they're gonna call me. They haven't called me afterwards, and start. I got lots of pictures of my squeaky clean bowels that I can share with you later, Eric.
I don't know if I really want to
Uh,
see that.
but yeah. So I feel better knowing than not knowing, and knowing that I don't have cancer makes me feel good. Let's put it that way. I feel like, I'm sitting there. I go, man, I fasted for a day. I feel pretty good. That didn't bother me too much. Maybe I need to start eating better, and I need to, I can do a fast every once in a while. It didn't bother me one bit. I can do this and that. So
Right.
maybe it'll lead to some good stuff there. I'm hoping. I'm hoping so. I just it put a little spring in my step because I was feeling so bad with this pain in my gut, which is probably my ulcer. That just hearing this, I'm like, okay, well, I don't really have too many issues. Like, I'm old, but I don't eat well and I drink booze, and so Oh, and speaking of booze, so I'm drinking my drink tonight, and I wanted to let you know that I'm gonna open up the sponsorship a little bit because I have 3 different liquors here tonight. So we
He's
got
got
some
3 different
black
effing
velvet
liquors.
toasted caramel. All right, let's go try that. Oh, okay. There's one.
Uh,
And we have
it's
Jack
gonna be a hell of
Daniels
a mix.
Tennessee Honey. These are all possible sponsors, by the way. If somebody from Jack's watching this tonight and you think, man, I would really like this show that only has 1,000 people to sponsor, hey, we're right here. So let's try this Tennessee Honey. Oh, yeah.
Tennessee honey is pretty nice on its own.
It is pretty good. And then I have something called BSB 103 High Altitude Brown Sugar Bourbon.
That sounds good.
And if you're wondering why a diabetic is drinking this stuff, just know I had a big shot earlier. So, it smells
Well,
good.
if you seem like you're kind of telling me, hey, take your blood sugar. Let's see what we're at.
See, there you go. I've got my machine over here too somewhere. I can dig that one up.
Yeah, I'm at 142, which actually
A little high, a little high. Not,
you know what?
not terrible.
I haven't taken metformin since Sunday night. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's actually good.
Because
type
we're talking
2.
about cleaning out the bowels. Metformin's been cleaning out my bowels.
We're kind of drifting into old man talk here.
Yes.
We should talk some gaming.
Let's throw some gaming talk into this.
So it doesn't sound like a bunch of old guys just sitting around talking about their vagina and their aches and pains.
Which gaming talk should we talk about right now?
Well, let's I just gotta. Okay, David. Dennis, why don't you just reply on the YouTube? He said, "Still drinking that garbage." Hey, it's not garbage. It's pretty yummy actually. So the reason I have all this booze, and I have let me go ahead and show you. This is going to be a common theme the next few months. So our buddy Chris Stodgel dropped off. This is filled with mini bottles, folks. This whole thing. I foresee drinking games in our future, or my future. Let's put it that way. I mean, there's some really bad liquor in there. So this is going to be. We're probably going to have a fun drinking game around Christmas or something, where I have to pull something out of there and drink it.
That sounds like fun.
But yeah. So speaking of drinking, that got here because this weekend we had a memorial to Doug Ray at the warehouse where we store the NTRPG Con stuff, and we had a great time. It was a lot of people showed up, and we celebrated Doug and his legacy, and we ate a lot of, well, maybe not good food, but junk food. but we
had good going down.
We had people from out of town fly in, Scooter Green, Mark Greenberg, Bill and Ben Barsh. We had people drive from out of town, Melissa and Dennis Pipes, Sean Pointer, who's on the chat right now. He drove in. A lot of people spent the night. Sean and them spent the night because it was such a far drive home. And we were, let's just say, we might have had a few drinky poos. If you watched the live stream on Facebook Friday, it was a 5-hour live stream.
I popped in for a bit.
Yeah, the last hour we weren't even there because I think we went to Whataburger and left the laptop on, so you got to see inside the warehouse.
Nice.
But yeah, we had a great time celebrating Doug and his legacy. We had a lot of people come in town. Gary and I got to share a few things about what we're going to do in the future for the con. We've actually talked about some stuff today. I can release a couple things about the con. We are having our logo done this year by the one and only James Shields, who is awesome, and we love him, love the dude, and he's volunteered to do our logo this year. So James is going to do our logo, which is great. And we told everybody, just what's going on, and we just had a great time. It rained a lot, but it was fun. We were
inside. Who cares if it's raining?
Yeah, that's true. It's a little crowded in here, though. And this is one room. There's 2 rooms behind this, and then there's the warehouse. The warehouse is too hot to really be in for very long. But the other 2 rooms were fine. They were pretty full for a while. We had I think at the most we had here at one point, we might have about 20 people, which is pretty crowded.
Wow.
But most of the time it was about maybe a dozen to a half dozen, so it wasn't too bad. But it was great, and we appreciate everybody that came and everybody who watched us. We had a lot of people, like Eric said. Eric was saying hi. A lot of people Friday night tuned in and just said hello and hey, how you guys doing and everything. And it was great. We had Sean's thinking some drinking games right now that I don't like already, but I'm sure at some point I will reach in there and grab some random goodies. Anyway, so that's why we got the booze there, because a lot of people dropped off stuff. Skeeter dropped off a first edition Call of Cthulhu box set to auction next year. I mean, we had a lot of donations. I had a whole box of T-shirts from years past. We sold them for about $50 each, and it probably sold about 6 or 7 of those. I mean,
are they clean?
They're clean. They're brand new, never worn.
Oh, shit. All right. Oh, new old stock. Okay.
Yeah, we had like 2014, 15, 16, 17 shirts. What happened was Doug used to print test shirts out back in the past, and he would I guess he kept them because I found a box when I was going through the warehouse of just a bunch of old T-shirts with now some would have names on them, like this belongs to such and such. And I shipped a few of them that were a couple years old that had never been shipped because the person didn't show up, various reasons. But these all didn't have names on it, and I figured out by looking at the different colors and the different designs, they were all test shirts that Doug had printed all those years. So we're deciding to sell them because we don't usually sell old logo stuff. And and I passed the box around, and we made about $300 or $400 with the shirts. And I still have a few that I may advertise later on this year. And it was just great. We had a few. Richard LeBlanc donated a bunch of stuff. Skeeter Green donated the Call of Cthulhu box set. Melissa and Dennis Pipe's been extremely generous. They've donated a boxes and boxes of stuff. And this is all stuff that will definitely 100% go towards, and I'm saying this for a reason, as we will discuss later, possibly. This is all going to the North Texas RPG Con Fund. We don't have a charity per se because honestly, we're a small convention and we survive by donations and by just selling merchandise, mostly through auctions. So it all goes towards the con, every bit of it, and we thank everybody that's donated. But that's what I did with the weekend. It was fun. We did that Friday. Saturday actually was not as crazy as Friday. Friday was nuts. Saturday was a little easier. We got to bed. I shut the doors here about 7:00, whereas Saturday I think we're way after midnight.
Wow.
But yeah, it was just great. We didn't even play games. We just hung out and talked. It was just all talk. It was great. We talked about the con.
Isn't that why you go to conventions? I don't go to conventions to necessarily play games. I go to conventions to socialize.
It was great. Like I said, we told a lot of Doug stories. Some of there's just so many stories about the dude, man. It's just great. So we talked about Doug, and we talked about the con and where we're going and where we've been, and we shared pictures and it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. So it was a good weekend. Now we can kind of look forward. I've got Game Hole in 2 weeks, and then, a month. Gary and I are both taking vacations during November, so we're going to charge our batteries and rest up. And then come December, we're going to start the work on the con for 2022. and start getting our special guest down, getting the tickets on sale, all the good stuff. So it was good. It was a good little segue to a little break we're going to take for the next few weeks, and then we're going to hit the con running after that. North Texas, number 14, 2022 will be on our mind come December. So
it's getting there. I mean, I regret not having gotten to ShireCon, which was what 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
I got my ShireCon swag bag and the Back to Basics hardcover Saturday. So I took with me to the Poconos when we left on Monday. I took my Back to Basics book, but I was so damn effing busy. Not all game related or gaming related, but it was just a lot of, dare I say it, enjoying the new car and doing a lot of driving.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's like doesn't feel like you're driving in this car because it's
God.
Oh,
nothing like a new car. I know.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, this like 8-inch screen doesn't distract me. Oh, look at that, my maps work on it. Holy crap! 9 speakers. What does 9 speakers sound like? Wow, I guess we are subscribing to Sirius XM after the 4-month trial period is over. Holy crap! So yeah, but it was also good to get away and unwind. I mean, listen, there's been a lot of stuff going on. Dare I say behind the scenes, which and just like the Wizard of Oz, we don't show you what's behind the scenes, right? But
no, the curtain is sometimes the curtain's closed. Exactly.
Right. Sometimes the curtains go closed, but it's certainly been an interesting, time-consuming time. It was good to get away. It was good to get to a place that had. It's my parents have a place that's been my family since 1969, I think. I'm going to make a statement. If anybody wants to disagree with me, feel free. DSL sucks shit. Oh my god! Upload a video, 75 minutes for a 10-minute video. It's like I'll use my phone's hotspot. Thank you very much. So. Needless to say, it isn't. It's kind of like not having the internet when you're having trouble sometimes getting phone connection. So, yeah, I guess if not saying that it's tech free, but it was certainly a lot less techy than I'm used to, and maybe that was good, maybe that wasn't. I don't know, but again, thank you to Tom for sending me my book, my shirt, my bag.
Yeah, I got my my swag bag from Tom himself. I mean, I bought one later afterwards. The one's left over, and I opened it up and looked at it. But I guess I'm going to have to read it a little more carefully this weekend. I just kind of looked at it and didn't really spend much time. But that's pretty nice swag stuff.
Yeah,
got a bag and some dice and a module, and it looked pretty cool.
Awesome stuff. Now, and that's the reason. The reason why I currently own a new car is because I possibly noticed issues with my prior car. Now, I didn't notice any issues when I was trading it in, but I might have potentially said, hey, it might be time to trade my car in. So, not saying, just kind of saying. Oh, and by the way, Mike is drinking a booze. He said, I am actually having Captain Morgan, orange and vanilla, or vanilla and orange.
Ooh, it sounds good. That sounds
with
delicious.
Cream soda diet, because again, I'm a type 2 diabetic, and I inadvertently found out that I've had stomach issues off and on now for I guess the last year or so, but it's gotten worse recently. My other medications have changed, but I forgot to bring my metformin for my type 2 diabetes with me to the Poconos. So inadvertently, I realized, hey, no metformin, no stomach issues.
Oh,
well, I got it. And I see my endocrinologist next Tuesday. So it's like, doc, listen, I inadvertently did an experiment, and we got to tweak something. Whether they lower the dosage or make it an extended release, but yes, this is old man. Oh
no, we drifted back to the old man. Okay, we're gonna definitely do gaming. So let's give ourselves some time. we're
Yep.
going to cover the Gary Con stuff. How's that sound?
All right. All right.
Because
Hold on.
there was a couple posts from Luke this week. For those who don't keep track, we're going to go over what we know, or just we're going to go over what happened. It started the week that I know Doug's funeral,
Yeah.
with the posting of a dude, the whistleblower that's trying to sue this company called Servtronics.
Turbotronics
Mhm.
and what's the other? Oh God, it's a knife company.
Ontario Knife Company. Yeah,
Oneida Knife Company. Okay.
yeah. And so there, and it just so happened, in this dude who's goes by the name Turbo has been a fixture at GaryCon the years that it was. Now we haven't gone to GaryCon in 2 years, but from 2018 or I'm sorry 2019, we saw
Prior
this.
for a
We've
number of
seen this
years.
guy
Yeah.
there. Saw him at the bar there. Know who this guy is. He's a buddy of Luke's that helps run the con, or we're all supposedly. Um, and he was getting the major. This whistleblower was throwing everything. His lawyer was throwing everything but the kitchen sink at the wall. That there was sexual escapades here. There was malfeasance. There was embezzlement. I mean, just all this shit. And lo and behold, Luke Gygax is mentioned about 20 times in here because they went and did stuff together and hung out together. And it just looked really bad for Luke, because he's on the board of directors, it turns out, of this
Right.
company, and gets compensated very handsomely with a salary, which is not illegal, as Ty Beard, our unofficial attorney, pointed out last time the show. It's not illegal at all. I mean, it isn't. You can get compensated for things,
Right.
but it does create a
Perception. It's a
perception
bad
that
perception.
there's something going on. This is weird. So why don't you take it from there, Eric? So that was a couple weeks ago, and it got a little traction. Some people posted it. I downloaded it and read it. It was just it was somewhat over the top. I felt that this whistleblower's accusations,
Oh, the
because
whistleblowers' accusations are stuff that would make for a very cool B movie if you were into like pagan rituals, because it describes a lot of pagan rituals. And then
oh
the
oh
mating
god,
ceremony, and I was forced to be
yeah.
the second guarding the door to the tent.
Stuff that was unbelievable was this guy worked for this company for 9 years, and of course, because he has to say this, he was forced to do all these awful things, like see strippers and to drink and party, and he hated every minute of it. Hated, I
Don't
say. And
they forced somebody to pour
hot
uh,
wax on
hot
his.
wax on my chest, and
And
I
two
was.
two gorgeous Norwegian girls poured wax on my chest, and I hated every minute of it. It was so terrible. Oh
It
my
was
god.
so demeaning, and maybe it was. Listen, we're mocking the guy. I don't know the guy,
If he's gay, it would be humiliating. I'm
and
not saying, I
I
don't
know,
know. Maybe he's gay, and
and
that's
we don't know.
awful. Then
We
it's
don't know,
awful of it. Yeah, I wouldn't
but
want two strapped hot dudes pouring hot wax on me. I wouldn't like that either. So,
no, I would be very offended.
no,
And but
unless they were like maybe like super hot guys. I mean, I'd be flattered then. But
just a little, just a little bit. But listen, a lot of the allegations had nothing to do. Actually, 90% of the allegations had nothing to do with Gary Kahn. Had
no,
nothing to
nothing at
do
all.
with
No.
Luke, but some of them did, and I covered them on the blog. I did a breakdown highlighting, and I wasn't saying, well, this is proven true, or we don't know, and we
Yeah,
still
this is all.
don't
It's
know.
just let's put it this way.
They're
It's just out
accusations.
there. It's just out there. We have to talk, because I know I got a couple people like, well, this doesn't have anything to do with gaming, man. But we have to talk about it. Otherwise, we're not. Then it
Right,
looks like we're covering for Luke or something.
right, and on top of
Which
it,
are not.
like
We
I
just
said,
want to know what's. We just thought it was interesting because, well, they did mention Luke. We knew who this guy is, Turbo. We've met him. We see this and that. So
don't you want knives, Mike? Come on.
I've got it right here. Turbo knife right here. It's a great knife too, on knife company. That's one of Turbo's knives. Hand it to me when we were at the Frog Guy booth, which he did. He would walk around this giant box of knives and hand them out everywhere. Um, but yeah, so we talked about it a little bit. Well, apparently some of the Twitter stuff kind of blew up. There was more accusations thrown specifically at Gary Kahn and Luke at that point.
Right.
Um, and that's where it got interesting, and it got more into gaming, right?
It did, and a lot of it was on the Twitter side was hard to follow. I had the feeling from what I was seeing on Twitter that if you were in the know, you knew, and if you weren't in the know,
Very inside,
yes,
very
very inside.
obliquely made reference to some really bad things that they said happened at Gary Con, which Eric and I have zero knowledge of. As many times we went to Gary Con, I never saw really this happen, but it was very insider. It seemed like it was very, well, I don't know, well sourced, I guess, because it just seemed like this somebody knew something is what this Twitter
Right.
post made it seem like.
So Luke came out with a recent statement on the GaryCon site, and I'm going to
Well,
bitch about something later. By the way, go ahead, Mike.
I was saying there were specific. So there were specific allegations about several things. One of them was about the auction. The specific
Yes,
allegations about the auction, and then Luke. So that was one of the specific allegations, and I'm thinking, what was the other one that he just wrote about? And about Turbo's relationship to the convention.
right.
Specific allegations about that. So this week, Luke, I guess he had some pressure on him about this stuff. I think he got a little traction. Luke issued two, I guess, kind of rebuttals, which Eric probably.
Well,
Uh,
I have the one from October 4th up on the screen right now.
okay.
And I think this is the most recent one. Greetings, statement regarding recent GaryCon concerns. Greeting seekers. I'm aware that there was a link to a lawsuit involving Servotronics and the CEO, Ken Turbovich, therefore Turbo, right? You see where the
Oh yeah.
Turbo comes from. Posted by people in the gaming community. I am named in the claims in a lawsuit as a director of the company. I cannot comment publicly on these allegations. And that's wise. And that's,
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
it could get ugly.
yeah.
No matter what Luke is saying now, depending on what, because look, this whistleblower, he's asking for like what, $8 million or
No, no,
something.
no, no. He's asking for like 5 million times
Oh,
5 million times. He's
yeah.
asking for like, I don't know, like
Oh, dear, like 80
30,
million.
$40 million.
So this is gonna at some point he's probably gonna settle, which happens in most of these lawsuits. Um, I don't think Luke is liable, but it doesn't look good, right? I mean, if the guy
Luke
that your
is
buddy is
named,
getting sued, that you're on
right.
the board of his board of
Luke is
directors of his
named
company,
in the lawsuit, but he's not named as a party of the lawsuit. So I guess
right?
I'm not a lawyer. I am most certainly not one of the many lawyers we have in this community. But I would say he's not somebody named to be uh, the subject of the lawsuit.
We
He's
have
not the
talked to lawyers
respondent.
though. Eric and I both talked to lawyers, but yes, we are not lawyers. I talked to a couple lawyers this weekend. We've heard from Ty Beard on the comments last week, and I know Eric's talked to people. So we've talked to lawyers, but that it's people that can't issue absolute opinions on anything because they're saying, okay, well, I'm looking at it from this angle, and this is what it
Right.
looks like, and so but the consensus was it just didn't look good. It was a really bad take for Gary Kahn and
It's
for
nothing else. It was awkward. I mean, here's the thing: in our industry, perception is 90% of what goes on, right? And
right, right,
if your game is to be successful, well, I have a perception that everything put out by X is going to be good. Well, that doesn't necessarily ring true, right? But it's the perception that makes that happen. Well, it's perception in this case didn't look good. Luke's statement was, pretty much where it needed to be, I think. Um, with that said, after saying that he cannot comment on the lawsuit, I want to state that Ken is not associated with GaryCon and will not be in the future. I'd further like to clarify that Ken isn't now and never was an owner of GaryCon. We receive some company support, and these fine businesses are thanked and recognized on our website publicly. Um, so you can say that now and going forward, Ken is not part of the con. It doesn't.
because one of the specific allegations once again was that he was basically running the con. I think the inference was that maybe he's laundering money through the con. I mean, he's doing something nefarious with the con, and that's what the inferences were from the post we saw. Is that yeah, Turbo's really running that thing. And so I think that was what Luke is trying to get out from under here and say, no, this guy has no influence on the con. He's not running the con, and we're gonna. Do you say you're gonna try to keep him out of the con, or he's not gonna come to the con?
He doesn't say that. He just said that he doesn't own the con, will not own the con, and is pretty much not part of the con.
Right.
But it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't come out and state that it's not like a banhammer on fucking Ken's head.
Sure.
But I would suspect that the community wants to see that.
It's a distancing, definitely a distancing.
Yes.
Saying, whoa. Now he had another one earlier where he talked specifically about the auction, and that
the auction's mentioned here too.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yes. No. I've received questions about the charitable auction. I want to assure you that there is no intent to make the auction a revenue stream. And that was an allegation that I don't even know if it was part of the Twitter stream. It was something that was, dare I say, the Whisper Network was talking about. It was out there in the ether. And the intent is to provide a place for the community to raise money for good causes. And the money realized is intended to go to the designated cause. There are costs to an auction, and this is true, such as credit card fees, sales tax, since Gary Con receives the money and then gives to the cause. Over the last 2 years of Virtual Gary Con, we continue donating money for Extra Life directly as a company without any auction generating funds. Giving back is something we believe in doing, and we are committed to as an organization. We have raised money for Wounded Warrior Project, Extra Life, James M. Ward, Laura Rosloff, a Kenosha at-risk teen program, and others over the years. To help ensure there are no questions going forward, we will video record the auction, list items and bids, and show money actually received so all are able to see it and remove any doubts about the process. I think that's awesome because and again, these are the stories. When this stuff happens, right? When a story like this kicks off, a lot of stuff gets brought back and forth by people that are either knowledgeable or have contact with people that are knowledgeable. But it can become a game of post office. And there was a story going around that Ken was not allowing people to videotape the auction. And therefore,
for one reason or another,
right?
But once again, it's perception, right? Your perception is, well, why aren't you letting people videotape the auction? Well, the perception could be that it's because they're not reporting correct numbers of what they're selling, and they don't want people to have a written record, and there's no written record of it. Now, I will say, and this is just the way we've always done business. North Texas posts the results of the auction. Now this year we didn't because Gary had the dang envelope with the auction, but it will be posted this week. But every year we post the auction, what we make, and how much things sell for. We leave the names off because people don't like their wives to know how much they spent on a brown box or something.
Oh God!
But we are always transparent that because once again, it's just perception. If you're not transparent, and even in our case, the auction's not for charity. It all goes to for the most part to North Texas to run the con. But it's still, I mean, it's just something you do. You tell people like, look, this is what we sold. This is how much we made, and you eliminate any kind of back alley whispering about, Gary Con made $25,000, but they only donated $2,000 to Extra Life or something. You eliminate any of that because you're like, no. Here's what we made, and here's exactly what we donated, and that's the way you should do it because that just eliminates all the whisper talk, right?
Right. Here's the credit card fees. This is the expenses for us renting a room for the auction from the convention. These are again. As Sean Puente said, transparency is great. Transparency is the key. Okay, and I think that going forward, we're going to see a lot of transparency from Gary Con, and I think that's auction. I think auction. That's awesome. It's also auction that's going to be transparent, but that is again, yes, very important, and I don't think it can be. Downplayed.
And it's just one of these things, sometimes cons get to running a certain way. I mean, there's some weird stuff about North Texas that we do just because, an example, Doug, for some bizarre reason, didn't like to sell T-shirts after March 15th or April. I can't remember, April 15th or whatever, and he would stop T-shirt sales. Why? Because, well, it was a weird reason. Because that's the last date that Zazzle would deliver. Blah blah. It was some weird date, but in reality, it put a lot of people, were upset because, like, well, I can't buy a shirt after April 15th. I want to buy a shirt to your con. So it's just one of those things that we just did, and we always did, and now it's one of the things that Gary and I are probably going to change because it's just something that doesn't need to be there. Well, this is probably something, the way they did the con at the beginning, this is probably what they always did. They never filmed, they didn't keep track of stuff, and it just kept rolling along, rolling
Right. It
along,
was
rolling along.
smaller.
Yeah.
When you think about it, if you're doing a small auction, you have I don't know, a couple hundred people, maybe you don't need to keep such an accurate number because you're
Hmm.
keeping that all on a scrap paper, or
Sure.
whoever's totaling it up at the end, who's sitting behind the table as things are being sold, has that record. But when you're doing an auction for a convention with thousands of people at it, it suddenly becomes a moving beast, a moving target that you can't keep track of without literally having somebody dedicated towards that role. And I'm
And,
glad to see
yeah.
that they're
And,
moving towards that.
and if you say you're donating, I don't know what the exact totals were for Gary Common. Let's say you're donating 25% of everything we make to Extra Life or to Wounded Warrior. Yeah, you really want to have those records, right? Because you don't want to just guesstimate at the end, like, well, I think we made X amount of money, because that kind of gets into fraud. Then you're like, okay, well, I thought that you were donating 25% to Extra Life, and it turns out once when the numbers were crunched, you're only donating 10%. Well, being transparent eliminates any of that possibly happening.
Right.
It's all, everything's out on the table. We made $28,000. So this is how much we give to this charity. This is how much we give to this charity. Here's how much our fees are. That we have to pay. It's just easy. It's just better. And honestly, I don't think there was anything nefarious here. I really think it's just the way they did business. And cons don't always do businesses the right way, unless you're Gamehole Con, which is an extremely well-run con,
Right.
and they don't have any issues. But that's a different animal altogether, because Alex, that's the way they run the con. But when you get smaller cons like our con and Gary Con and some others, sometimes records aren't kept that well, or sometimes you just kind of you eyeball stuff and say, well, we're just going to do it this way, and I mean,
I think Gary Kahn it probably had policies in place that were acceptable for the size it was initially.
sure.
But when it started hitting 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 people, your policies need to grow
Yeah.
with the attendance and with the amount of people, because it really causes multiple things to suddenly balloon and change, including the amount of money that you raise for charities.
And Gary Con is a weird animal, and I'll tell you why. Because most cons of Gary Con size, and the largest amount of people they ever had there was the last year Eric and I went, which is about, I think, about 3,100, 3,300. Most cons of that size are not very well publicized, or they're just not a big deal.
Right.
Gary Con is, for a few reasons. Number one, it's Gary Con. The name is on there. It's the Gygax family reunion. We're all invited to the Gygax family reunion. We get to hang out with all the Gygaxes, and these are people that grew up and lived and gamed with Gary, and so it's not just your regular con. It's a memorial con, right? It's supporting this thing. And number two, that they've had an outsized publicity for what they are. I mean, hell, they were mentioned on the Big Bang Theory. I mean,
Right.
nobody, that doesn't happen. Nobody mentions Gen Con. I mean, Gen Con, 60,000 people.
I
That's
mean,
never been mentioned. I mean,
Gary Kahn was boycotted, not effectively, but it was boycotted.
attempted by people who didn't know what the hell they're doing. But yeah, it's got a lot of play because it's run by the Gygaxes. It's pop culture. I mean, it's become part of pop culture, even with 3,000 people. I mean, that's just wild that a convention that's really that small, and that is a small convention, has such an outsized effect on our hobby, but it does. So it's different. It's different. It's just a different animal. I mean, Alex's con Gamehole has twice as many as Gary Con, and they're not talking about the Big Bang Theory. I mean, we're North Texas. We cap ourselves at 500, so we're not near the big boys. But then you have cons like Total Con's been around 30 or 40 years. they just don't get the kind of scrutiny that something like Gary Con does. And Gary Con has celebrities that attend, and we're
Yes.
talking not just regular celebrities, we're talking Hollywood people like Joe Manganiello and people like that. So it's just a different creature than most cons. It's not. It just doesn't have to. It doesn't follow the rules of the cons. Let's put it that way. Usually, for a con to be as famous as Gary Con, they'd have to have about 20,000 people there, or 25,000. And then you start getting the celebrities, and you start getting the mention on the pop culture, Big Bang Theory stuff. That's when you really start getting a lot of what's the word I'm looking for. A lot of airtime. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
But they're getting airtime with much less than that, just because of who the con was for, who attends, and what the con stands for. And I mean, then the fact that they're in Lake Geneva, small city, but that was the birthplace of D&D, and they're in the old Playboy Club, which has a history. There was one year there was a Gen Con run there, and it's been in the city forever, since the 60s. It's just the whole thing adds up to this is something special. It's not your run-of-the-mill regular con.
Right. If you're an old school gamer, it's got to be on your bucket list. I mean, no matter what, and if you like go, oh well, I never really cared about D&D. I was always a RuneQuest guy. It doesn't make a difference. Mm-hmm. This is a bucket list location. You want to go to the birthplace of role-playing games?
Oh yeah. Because even if you just go to the con, but you go downtown one time, you see the Gary Gygax bricks memorial that his family had to put up because Gail couldn't be bothered to do a statue. You see the
don't even get me started, Mike.
No, I'm not going that direction. I don't want to wind you up, but you get to see the horticultural hall where they had the first two Gen Cons. You get to see the downtown where TSR Hobbies used to be. I mean, all that stuff. And so it's more than just the con, it's the location of the con. It has a history. Everything has a history there. You go to the place where the old TSR guys used to hang out and eat pizza at night. I mean, just that's why you get so many old TSR guys there. And you get guys you don't get at any other convention. Guys like Tom Wom and Mike. Oh God, I've already had too much to drink tonight. B1 guy. Oh, my car, my hero, my car. You get those guys there, and they don't go to other cons, or they don't go to a lot of other cons because it's the birthplace of D&D, and the city itself is worth the trip, right?
Oh, I mean, listen. Somebody coming from New York has to fly in to Milwaukee, and then drive an hour and a half with a rental car because Uber sucks. I've tried it. It's not the most convenient location for a convention to be. That being said, I don't regret having gone to it. I had some great times. She enjoyed the atmosphere, but she also enjoyed the spa services. So my wallet didn't enjoy it, but whatever. It really has something for everybody. If you're going to go with your non-gaming spouse, believe me, they will find a way to occupy themselves.
Oh, yeah. So, it's well worth attending. So, anyway, the upshot of this is I think Luke nicked this in the bud pretty quick. I think that this shouldn't have too much an effect on anything Gary Con-ish. We don't know, but, it's something we're going to keep watch on, Eric and I, because I don't know. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with this lawsuit. I have no clue. Will Luke be asked to testify at some point if it goes to court? I would suspect it's not going to go to court, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's in court. Whether it goes to trial is another question.
Right. That's what I meant, yeah.
My experience, having been a juror, even if it goes to trial and the jury finds, you know what? We find Servotronics to be at fault. Then you have the next phase of the trial, which is awarding damages. And it's rare that you put damages in the hands of mere peons, because mere peons are a random.
They give you $1. They can say, "Here's $1. We
don't." They give you everything. So everybody at that point,
80 million. Oh no, you deserve 180 million. Yeah, exactly.
It's like crazy. Holy crap! We don't want them deciding. Take it out of the hands of the peons. So, by the way, there's one more paragraph to this I just want to cover. I don't want to do the convention or Luke any disservice by leaving this out. Gary Con has grown over the past several years, and it's not possible to be everywhere at once. It takes a dedicated team to operate a convention close to 3,000 people. I'll be honest with you. My last GaryCon was 2019. I thought there were more than 3,000 people.
There were a few more, and it was very crowded enough to when I talked to Luke that year, he said he would doubt they'd ever have that many again. He said it's just too crowded.
Coming from somebody who used to ride the New York City subway system on a fairly regular basis at rush hours, I felt claustrophobic. All I needed is some asshole like feeling my ass, and then I would have felt, I was in a proper.
I would have done that. You should ask me, dude.
I know you would have, Mike, but you would have enjoyed it too much, so I couldn't do that.
Skeeter would have bounced his nuts off your head or something.
No.
Well, he did for me. I didn't ask him to, and he just did it.
That which has been seen cannot be unseen. I don't need to have somebody with video recorded from a phone.
Hey, Skeeter,
I saw with my own eyes.
Can you hear this? Skeeter, can you hear this? I'm going to turn it up so you can hear it wherever you're at right now. There you go, Skeeter.
We established policies.
I love me some Skeeter. Love me some Skeeter.
In an intimate way. We established policies a few years ago to help all who come to GaryCon understand what is expected and what is acceptable. What is an acceptable way to act at GaryCon events? The policies we set up apply to all, including volunteers and staff members. I value GaryCon and think it creates tens of thousands of hours of joy for all that attend. I know that the hardworking GaryCon team puts in innumerable hours all year long because they love GaryCon, and it has significance for them personally. I want to ensure that GaryCon continues to bring happiness to the world for many years to come. And I think all of you will help the team and me as we work towards that end. If there's anything you experiment at GaryCon that you think I should know about, please email me directly at luke@garycon.com. Now, I mean, listen, there are numerous volunteers for this convention. Volunteering means you're not getting any kind of recompense, right? You're doing this.
You're probably doing it for free admission to the con.
Right.
In most cases.
And I know a few people that volunteer with GaryCon, and God bless them. This is GaryCon in a lot of ways is bigger than the Gygax family. All right, yeah. It really is a community event, and it's put on in large part because volunteers step up to do the work. So really, you shouldn't forget the volunteers.
No, it's not. So the year we went, we all agreed that was probably too much, and yes. I'm hoping as it goes forward, Luke is not just looking at how much money they can make, but also looking at this, like we were talking about. This is an institution, and maybe knock it down to say, hey, we're going to cap at 2,500, at 2,000, whatever he decides, and then go from there. I'll pay a little more not to have that be that crowded. I would have paid $10 more on my ticket not to have been that crowded. I mean, seriously, that was a mess there. And I know they make a lot of money from VIP tickets, which are like $500 each or something crazy.
Easily.
And so they're already kind of looking that way. I would hate to have them price it completely out of the market where it's like, okay, it's, a couple $100 to go. But yeah, I wouldn't mind paying a little more just to have more exclusive experience. Now, some people are always going to cry and scream if they don't get to go because the tickets are sold out. But I just think they're going to probably have to do that anyway, unless they want to move to Milwaukee and have a really big con, which I don't think they want to do.
Well, I thought the hue and cry was always not the tickets selling out to the convention. I thought it was always up. Ty, of course, late to the conversation.
This is the whole legal jargon that Eric and I had to
make up on the fly.
No clue. So, we just made it all up. We did like most players did. We just absolutely made everything up. It was great.
I always thought the hue and cry that went up was always because the rooms at the actual convention site were sold out.
They saw
7 minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy and that's the problem with the town, the way it's set up. So for those who've never been, the Playboy Club, I keep on Playboy Club, it's not the Playboy Club anymore. It's outside of town, sort of. So you either stay there or you end up staying in town in another hotel, and you have to find your way. You have to get to the hotel. So it's much easier to downside. And if you have to go back and forth, it's a bit of a hassle. You can do it, but it's just a bit of a hassle. And so the problem is, it sells out so quickly because there's only a limited amount of rooms. And a lot of people want to be on site. It's like having a convention at a hotel, but you got to stay at another hotel and go there. It's never as fun to stay at the hotels nearby,
No.
unless you want to sleep at night. You don't want the extra noise and partying or whatever. Most people like to stay where the event is, and it's very tough at GaryCon because they sell out so quick, and they won't let you. I mean, they'd say, okay, rooms go on sale now, and then you're dialing on the phone and you try to get something in 5 minutes because you can't do it beforehand. They cancel all reservations made beforehand. I mean, they're very strict on how they fill up rooms for GaryCon. So it's it's tough. I mean, not just the fact that there's probably too many people going the last few years, but the fact that it's just gotten more and more ridiculous to have rooms. And then that's something they need to look at. But Eric and I've talked about this plenty of time. And the problem is they're locked into this destination because it's the largest place in Lake Geneva. And once they leave Lake Geneva, they lose the whole ambiance of the con. This is not the same con in Milwaukee or Madison or any other city in
But I'm gonna make the counter argument that you're gonna get to the point where it can't be the same con, no matter where you have it, right? You're going to, and I think I mean, we regard it as an old school gaming convention, but 5e has probably a larger presence at the convention than old school gaming, and 5e is going to be part of our conversation coming up, by the way.
Oh yeah,
but
stay tuned for this weekend, stupid.
Yeah, so if you're going to get to the point where you're saying, well, we have to like cut back on attendance, maybe you get to the point where you say, you know what, we just open the floodgates to attendance, move to Milwaukee, and now you're like a junior Gen Con. And as Mike has mentioned, the one old school convention, but one of those conventions that could take that step up to leap to that would definitely be GaryCon. GaryCon could make that step. The only problem is, again, we're already talking about situations regarding GaryCon's growing pains. If you grow like the Grinch, your heart grows 10 times. You have potentially 10 times as much bullshit you got to worry about.
And look at the problems they've had now. A lot of this is because the way it's con structure, with Luke living in California and having a full-time job with the military, not being able to do much for the convention. This is what happens: is you have things like this, like the problems they have with the auction, the problems they have with Surftronics relationships and this and that. Do you really want? You got to walk before you can run, right? So you got to get this con running so smoothly. It's like the trains, in Germany. It's clockwork. It's whatever. You don't, or Italy. I'm sorry, not Germany. Italy.
No, it was Germany.
No, Mussolini.
No.
He had the trains running.
It was the guy with the short mustache that got the trains running.
That guy, yeah, I don't like.
I don't want to mention his name because I want to be demonetized.
I promised you it was the other dude, the Italian dude. But anyway, you want to get this thing running as well as it can before you ever even think about, hey, let's make this jump a little bigger. And I was not ready to make that jump yet. I don't think they want to. If I've had people that are in the know, I just don't think that's something they're looking for. They don't want to. I mean, yes, they'd like to make more money. They're much more about money than, for instance, North Texas is, or that Gamehole Con is, because Gamehole Con doesn't need money because Alex is sitting on a bag of gold somewhere. And then North Texas doesn't need money because we've decided long ago we just want to put on a con for 500 people, and if we break even, we're happy. And so, but GaryCon's a different beast. They need to make money. They're like a shark. They got to keep moving. And they can't just say, okay, we're satisfied with making this much money. No, they need to make more money. And so this is something they're probably going to talk about and think about for a while. COVID really it just changed everything, because for 2 years they didn't have the con. They only ran it online. So we don't know what the atmosphere is going to be next spring. I mean, God forbid, what if we had another COVID outbreak and they had to cancel? Oh, good. 3 years in a row. Can you imagine that? That's I don't know how con can survive that. I really don't. So they're really crossing their fingers and hoping this happens as it's supposed to happen next year. And I think it will, unless we're just having a dire emergency event in the United States where they're saying you can't go outside even. This is going to happen no matter what, and so they're going to move forward from this. So I don't know if we really know what's going to happen with Gary Con for 2 or 3 years. It just everything got set back because of COVID. COVID put
it was a bit of a reset.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad. It is what it is. But oh, look at that, 9 o'clock. Does that mean that we've weaseled our way to this week in gaming stupid?
Oh, and we have such a stupid for you today that it's.
But before we go into the larger stupid, should we go into the more old school stupid that's like generic stupid?
Well, we got a few little stories that popped up that.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know which stupid you're talking about. There is a lot of stupid in gaming these days.
Oh no, I'm talking about the Venger stupid.
Oh, you go with that. Yeah, that's okay. You throw that out there, and we will look at it and see if it ranks being put in with gaming stupid with the.
All right. By the way, GC, we've just talked about Gary Con for the last 35, 40 minutes. You
guys got to tune in early. Come on, man.
Yeah.
We go on at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. You guys, come on.
Hey, rewind, man. Rewind. Sorry, man. Sorry, Bill. Welcome. So, all right. We're going to go. So now, all right. So, we're going to. Oh, I can't. Here's the thing. I'm trying to. And this is the stupidity beyond the stupidity. The stupidity is, all right, here's the stupidity. I'm going to give it to you in a nutshell, and then I'm going to tell you the further stupidity. And by the way, whether you like Venger's work or not, he does a really great job at picking out some amazing artists and amazing pieces of artwork.
So nobody ever said he put out bad product. He does.
Right. Well, no, but apparently, so here's the thing. Apparently, a fan of Venger's, and it's not Venger, right? It's Venger. I gotta pronounce it right.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear V bitching and complaining in my ear. Dude, you can't pronounce my name right. So, whatever. People still spell Eric with a C in my case. So. Oh. So. Let me go to the calling out exalted funeral. Oh, so and then the best disinfectant. There's 2 posts on it, but here's the thing: Exalted Funeral has a Discord server. Mm-hmm. Who doesn't have a Discord server? We have a Discord server. Tenkar Tavern.
I got one. I got a personal one and a North Texas one.
Right.
So Frog Out Games has one. Everybody has one now. It's one of those things you just do.
So here's the thing. Apparently, a fan of Venger's works was like, hey, on this server, I just got Venger's last release and it's awesome. Or I really like his stuff. Anybody else like his stuff? I don't know exactly what they said because I can't read the effing screenshots because they're blurred out the moment that you try to. Oh, this one isn't. All right. Well, I was trying to.
Oh, dear.
But in any case, you a fan of Venger's? Banned. Easiest ban ever. Screenshot of this stuff. Now, this is petty. This is, in my opinion, when someone who has way too much power as a system, as an admin on anything, a Facebook community, a Discord server, a forum, goes in and is like, oh, well, I don't like Venger's stuff. You like his stuff? You're banned. This is like, This is
like the person who has just the teensiest. I remember 25 years ago being banned from AOL forums because I said that Picard was a better Star Trek captain than Shatner. If you believe that, you're banned because that's the only power some of these people ever have in their pathetic little lives is to ban people from blogs and servers. That's it. That's what they got. That's what they got going is that I can ban you from this blog. And so I'm going to do it. I'm going to ban you for whatever reason I decide. It's been going on for 30 years. It's stupid, but it's there, right?
Right. So, and again, I'm not worried about these conversations and these screenshots. But what it came down to is that Venger pointed out. I got to correct myself on how to pronounce Venger's name. Pointed out that they are Exalted Funeral Press is a distributor of Old School Essentials in print. So now, mind you, Old School Essentials, Gavin Norman had nothing to do with any of this,
Yeah.
and yet there have been people that have been calling for a ban of Old School Essentials because of what one. Uh, uh, I'm trying to think of a word that like YouTube won't get too upset with me for calling somebody.
Hmm.
What a turd? I'm gonna be like a kid in elementary school. You're a turd brain. One effing turd brain who decided he didn't have enough power. He needed more power. I'm going to show how powerful I am and ban you for saying that you like somebody's works.
Hmm.
How the hell that? I mean, I understand if you want to say, listen, everybody should leave that Discord server. Fine, that's where it happened, right? But now the call suddenly morphed into everybody should boycott Old School Essentials, and I can't agree with that. And yes, I am the same asshole that when somebody had a cab at the end of their splat page, whatever, on drive through for their product, um, complained about those specific letters in that specific meeting, could nothing to do with the product in question. Um, yes, I'm still not calling for anybody to get banned or for anybody to get boycotted or to get removed from the market over really what's stupidity. But
Yeah.
I will say this: Venger knows, not necessarily always well, but he knows how to get FaceTime out there. We're talking
Sure.
about it,
Oh
right?
yeah.
A lot of people out there are talking about this. And he's tweeting about it almost constantly. I not that I actually do Twitter, but when I did a Google search for this, I was like, oh look, V has a Twitter account. Um, this has become one of the conversations going on. And if you're the person on that Discord server that banned somebody for liking Venger's works, you're an ass. Because all you did was get him screen time. All you did was get his work
Right.
noticed, and all you did was get him free advertising. So you're just an ass. My God. How to
Eh,
step on your
How,
own
how,
willy.
how did Necrotic Gnome get dragged in this too? Along with, I mean, because they're just there. I mean,
Because Old School Essentials publishes Old School Essentials print goes through Exalta Funeral Press.
yeah, but what do they? They didn't have anything to do with it. It
Doesn't
was
make it
all.
that doesn't matter because
Uh,
they're the only product that any when you go, oh, what does Exalta Press publish? Old School Essentials.
huh?
Nobody else, like, oh, they do. Nobody remembers
Yeah.
anything else but that, and therefore
I,
that's what you focus on.
I like. I, look, credit where credit's due. Venger puts out decent products for his money and stuff, but sometimes and I like the dude too, but man, do you remember what was it a couple years ago or a year ago when he had the dumb I'm I'm bisexual. What was
Oh
that
no,
stupid
that
thing he did?
dude, that's like 3 or 4 years ago
Oh, that was the
when he
dumbest
was
take
a
ever.
trans alien.
Oh
Okay,
God.
he
And
had
it just
himself. Yeah,
yeah, it was
but
just
but again,
stupid.
that got talk going, right? So and yes, did I
He was trying to
remove?
make fun of trans people, so he said, "Well, I'm trans alien, and
Yes,
because I think I'm alien," and he just kept this thing up for a couple months or whatever,
oh,
and it
bizarre.
was just
He might still
dumb.
be keeping it up for all I effing
It
know.
didn't. No, I think he dropped it because he never talks about it anymore. But it's just one of those things where maybe 90% of what Venger does works, and then 10% just absolutely does not hit the mark. And this is one of those things where, okay, I can see why you're trying to, get the troops going, the pitchforks up, and the torches burning. But come on,
What?
one dumbass banned another dumbass from a forum. Who cares? I mean,
Right.
really?
Well, and but here's the thing. It's like people are, and I don't mean this in the way it's going to come out. I'm sure somebody's going to go, But
Uh-oh, here we go.
people in general,
We're gonna
all
get
right.
canceled. We're gonna get canceled right
Well,
here.
no, people in general just read headlines
Oh,
or
sure. Oh, sure.
read the two sentence summary and don't even go into the 2 paragraph lead in, and then they're like, okay, well, we gotta boycott old school essentials. Again, they had nothing to do with it. It
Yeah.
was one f-tard over on a Discord server who probably in their real life, it's like somebody who at work is very meek and mild, but I'm on Discord and I can ban people. You're banned. It's like
Blog and Discord and forum administrators, I'm sorry, they're the worst. I mean, they do a hard job, but a lot of them, you're right, they're just petty tyrants. Like, you like Picard more than Shatner, you're banned from my Star Trek blog.
yeah.
But why? I mean,
Oh,
it was my opinion. I didn't know that was being mean to you. You can tell it still hurts me 25 years later. That was being,
I know. I understand.
it's so hard.
I gotta say,
it's been a tough one.
uh,
It's been
the,
really
the
tough 25 years.
the mods or the admins that we have on the Tenkars Tavern Discord server, we have a number of them.
They're awesome too, by the way. They
Yes.
are very good.
They are very good. No, and well, the thing is, the vetting process was extremely good, and I got to give Pex a lot of credit for that. But and I've told them, I go, some of them are like, well, this guy did something that was really over the top, and I just want to make sure that I can ban them. I'm like, no. I'd rather you ban somebody and then tell me afterwards, and if I review it and there's that 1 in 10 chance or 1 in 100 chance that maybe I think you overstepped, I'll bring them back. But ban them, because if you think they're bad enough to be banned, not because you like Venger's shit, all right? I like some Avengers shit, all right? But because somebody was abusive toward others, somebody was trolling, that's fine. But if you ban somebody, well, dude, they said they like Travelers, so I banned them. Come on, let's be a little.
All you did was give Venger something to rant about and to rally the troops and get the pitchforks up in the hands and the torch in this hand, and that's all you did. That's really all you did. So, good luck with all that with some dumbass that thought that was be awesome to screw around with that. So,
by the way, Ryan, AOL chat rooms were a trip.
My God, they were. Yeah,
I used to hang out in Cops That Flirt because I was single and a cop, and yes, they were pretty much bizarrely insane. Oh my God! And then you would. There were so many of them too. You couldn't keep track. It's like, but
so back in the day, the AOL chat rooms, they were run by people who didn't get paid, and this is back when AOL cost money per minute to get on AOL. Back before the whole paradigm was broke, and then you got unlimited access.
Right.
And so for every minute, so they would get free access to AOL by manning these chat rooms. So it was actually a pretty big deal because back then it was expensive to be on AOL.
Oh yeah,
and these guys got to be on, so they protected their little fiefdoms with ultimate seriousness. And yes, they were a trip because there were some people there that were legitimate cuckoo nuts that would run forums and they would just be nut. Like I said, they kick you off a Star Trek forum if you said you like Picard more than Shatner. I mean, just crazy ass shit. Just and that's what you had. That was your level of forum. And back, you got to remember, there was never online forums before that. There was no such thing. So this is an entirely new concept. Say, hey, we're going to have this person who we don't really know. They're going to manage this forum. I mean, I know a lot of forum people that got kicked off of AOL because they were cuckoo nuts and they were kicking everybody off forums. They're like, wait a second, that's not why we have a forum here, is to kick everybody off it. You're bad. Now you're gone. And they would get so upset because that was their AOL and they couldn't get on AOL anymore because it was too expensive. So, they would get suicidal because they were running a forum and they're running it lousy, and then they got kicked off. And it was just crazy. I remember getting some bans. Sometimes I got into it with forum people. I got a few 3-day bans, and 4-day bans, stuff like that, because it would just I remember getting banned from got banned from
Uh-oh.
I got banned from a comic book forum now because I said me and another guy piled on Rob Liefeld's art and said how terrible it was. And
But it
apparently
was. I
it
mean,
was terrible. And he did this Captain America knockoff once called the Patriot or something. It was just terrible. And this other guy and I just ripped on it. And next thing you know, we both got these things. You have a 3-day ban from the forum. And like, so we start emailing each other back and forth. Like, what happened? Did you get banned? I got banned too. Just some guy didn't even know except through AOL. And it turned out we were reported by Jeff Loeb, who, if you know Jeff Loeb is, he's a very famous writer for DC
I was
Comics.
about to say,
But
yeah.
oh yeah, he's a big name. He did a lot of stuff. He did The Long Halloween, did a bunch of stuff. But apparently his buddy Rob was getting savaged by us, and so he reported us to the forum guy, and the forum guy just kissed his ass like, "Oh, Jeff Loeb is emailing me," and so boom, we were out because we said how terrible Rob Liefeld's sense of anatomy was, which it's terrible if you've seen his stuff. But yeah, it's just little things like that would just get you out, banned or kicked out and stuff. So it's the level of forum management has gotten better because honestly, there's not a lot of forums anymore, right? I mean,
No.
forums have kind of gone away, and now you have the omnipresent AI of Facebook, which is just as terrible because you posted a picture of a dog, you're banned. I mean, what I mean, or a gun. You post a picture of a gun, you're banned because you must be trying to foment revolution. Like, well, no, I just posted a picture of a plastic gun, but it's just as bad as it always was. So forum managers are the bane of the universe, and there must have been some equivalent back in Roman days that everybody hated, because this is the kind of person that all through the thousands of years of history has always been somebody that had very little power but abused their power because that's the only power they had.
Right. Well, power corrupts. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Power corrupts. Absolutely. And you give somebody who has felt like they've been the underclass or they've been the downtrodden, you give them power over people that, well, anybody that likes Venger's artwork must be an abuser.
Oh, they must hate women, definitely. Yeah.
It must be somebody that would have abused me back in high school, because I was never one that would look at artwork like that. I always wanted the Charlie Brown stuff. So therefore, they must be banned because they cannot live in an environment where I have authority. So yeah. So this week in Gaming Stupid, we kick it off. Not surprisingly enough, not with something that Venger did, but because of something that happened because somebody dared like Venger's work. I mean, how pathetic is that?
Well, we have some real stupid here that we just kind of found this afternoon because
Yes.
it's a breaking story, and
boy,
and
it should be broken, by the way. It really should be broken. This is in wargamer.com. D&D lead designer. Devils don't have to be evil anymore. Okay. I've been calling fucking 5e D&D, Care Bear D&D for years, and I know the defenders come out of the woodwork and, oh no, 5e is not Care Bear. It's not like that. It's you can still have a TPK. If
you can die if 75 things go wrong.
If you actually kill your players, you can have a total.
If you decide you want to kill your player, yes, you can kill your player.
Not the penalties, but if you actually want to physically kill your players, you can have a TPK.
Oh,
yeah. 5e has been Care Bear for a while, but now they are taking like some of the last remains of what D&D. One of the things that always defined D&D, and I'll admit it's not in Swords and Wizardry Life because we didn't have the amount of space and pages to do a proper definition of alignment. But alignment's been in D&D since the beginning.
And it's always been very controversial because if you want to get in a fist fight at 3 o'clock in the morning when you've been drinking with a bunch of D&D guys, there's 2 or 3 things you can bring up. One's level limits for demi-humans. I mean, there's a couple more, but one of them is alignments. You will get in a fist fight because everybody's opinion is different on this. It really is.
Nature versus nurture. Should the paladin kill the baby orcs because they're going to grow up to be evil?
Bill, I want you to stop. You need to stop with this. devils aren't evil to their freaking name. Come on, man. You are absolutely projecting. And you are telling these devils they have to be one thing. When how dare you? How dare you pigeonhole them like that? Which is what we're getting to. So this is another Jeremy Crawford thing. And for all the kudos that Jeremy Crawford did, because look, he's lead designer in D&D. Fifth edition is the best-selling edition of all time of D&D.
But he wasn't. Was he part of that design team?
Yeah, he was. He was. I think he was. He's been there since the beginning. He's also. So there's basically. So this is what I get from just talking to people. Let's just say I talk to people. There was Mike Mearls and there was Crawford. Well, Mike Mearls unfortunately has been shunted aside because of various things he did and said, which I didn't think were that serious, but certain people had it out for him. Mike Mearls leaned more towards an old school type of D&D.
Right. He dared actually express any kind of support toward Zach Smith. I know that's a word.
Dare you,
how dare you? How dare you?
Yeah.
Zach and the pundit were named as resources for the original.
And because he had them, which by the way, their names were taken off there in an act worthy of communism at its finest. Their names were removed.
They were never here. You never saw nothing. I know not what you're talking about.
So Mike Mearls has been kind of shunned aside. He's doing something else right now for Hasbro, WotC. So Crawford's been elevated. So every few months, Crawford comes out with another Bond mod that, like, hey, this is going to make the game better. We're going to do this, and we're not going to do this. We're going to do this and not do this. And everything he's ever said is done is move the game farther away from traditional D&D, which, look, that's what they want right now. The 5th edition is the best-selling edition of all time. They got the 50th anniversary coming up. It's going to be gold. I mean, they're going to, publish a new edition. Well, not really a new edition of D&D, but just updated the old edition. Everything's coming up roses, and it has been for the past, 5 to 7 years. So he's continued to lean more and more into like, hey, we did this. Let's try this, and he's just moving farther and farther away from traditional D&D. I mean, let's just say what it is. He's trying to move towards a more generic role playing game, and while doing that, he's taking out a lot of the things that made D&D what D&D is. But that's what they want to do. They don't. This is weird. They make tons of money off D&D, but they don't really like D&D,
right?
Because D&D has a lot of baggage attached to it. It has the Gygax family, Gygax who they really don't like because they never talk about them. It has a lot of old-fashioned, I guess you call it white man type stuff because it has all these connections to wargaming, which they don't like. They don't like killing orc babies. They don't like it. They don't like orcs being evil. They don't, there's all these things they don't like. And so every time they come out with this new kind of rules thing, they change things. And it's just a little change every time. It's not a big change, right? It's never the big change. It's always a tiny thing. And then when you complain about it, they scream at you, how dare you, sir? You're complaining that you're just because we don't want to make orcs automatically evil. Why are you complaining about that? That's an improvement in the game. Like, yeah, it's just, but it's just different. It's just something and so all these little changes, we do this and we're going to do this. And it's really hard for characters to die. Well, yeah, it is, because we want people to really grow and love and enjoy their character. Why is that wrong? You can, and they always end up with, you can play D&D however you want. You don't have to use this rule anyway. So why are you complaining? That's always their excuse to get people to back down and drop their heads and say, yeah, I guess you're right. Because it's true. You can play any D&D any way you want. However, they're changing things about the way official D&D is to be played.
Right.
So their latest thing is, we don't really like alignments. So we're going to say from now on that you're just going to be what we call unaligned, unless you have some personal reason as a DM to make this character, let's say, lawful evil or whatever. We're going to say these characters are unaligned. You choose the alignment. So even like an angel, we're not going to say you have to have any kind of alignment, or a devil,
right.
or a demon.
They're going to have, according to the article, here, Dungeons & Dragons publisher Wizards of the Coast clarified more details of a major shakeup in the game's long-standing alignment rules in a D&D Studio blog post on Monday. In future D&D books, writes lead rules designer Jeremy Crawford, alignment, the in-game attribute denoting the character's moral outlook, will only be specified for key named individuals. Almost all other creatures will either be listed as any alignment or, in a few cases, unaligned. And even creatures with a strong moral inclination, such as angels, devils, and demons, will merely be listed as typically good or evil to be customized at the DM's
Demons are
discretion.
usually evil. We're just going to say that. I mean, we're not going
And
to
listen,
commit to anything
listen.
here. Yeah.
To be, you always had the ability to customize at the DM's discretion. I wrote, and I only remember this because I stumbled across it searching my blog for other stuff. I wrote a character or a creature on the blog side that was like Orcus's, like, 17th nephew once removed, who was chaotic neutral with evil tendencies. He was like Orcus's, semi stupid nephew. Uh, as evil as Orcus, certainly not. As capable as Orcus, certainly not. Going to be used if you used it for comedic effect. But if you're telling me, oh, I've come across a named devil, but they happen to be lawful good because, they've seen the error. They're lawful good. They're an
Well,
effing angel.
they point out the reason they want to do this is because we want to have an aura of doubt. So if you come upon a bunch of devils and you kill them all, oh no, those weren't evil devils. They were rebelling against the other devils.
Oh,
You
no.
fucked up because you were just so impulsive. It's a gotcha. DM got you there. All angels aren't good and all devils aren't evil. You effed up. Nothing's worse than DM gotcha bullshit. And so, this whole thing, and Bill said exactly what I said to Eric right before I got on.
Yep.
This has to do it. So he's played the path of Gen Con and D&D 5e. Gen Con is no longer a gaming convention. For those who had any doubt this year, it is a trade show. It is a trade show, and it is a cosplay entertainment con. It is not a game convention anymore. It is not a war game convention. It has nothing to do with D&D anymore at all. WotC didn't even show up the last few years. They don't care anymore. This is a trade show masquerading as a game convention. At this point, D&D 5.0 is only D&D in name only. It's masquerading as D&D. It is a generic role-playing game that they wish to take in a certain direction, and they're slowly moving in that direction. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to put their own imprint on this, and I will give them credit. They're doing it slowly. It's like the frog in the pot of boiling water,
Yes.
right?
Oh my God.
Because I see people that are even old school people. Look, D&D 5.0 has been a boon to every aspect of D&D. It's what helped. It's helped the OSR. It's even helped old schoolers. I have no problem with D&D 5.0. It's great. If you want to play it, I think it's helped the hobby a lot. It's brought a lot of people into the hobby. And you know what? A lot of those people end up playing old school games. They go from 5e because they don't like the Care Bear approach. And they like, hey, man, I heard D&D 1.0 is really tough. Yeah, it is. I want to play that, man. It's right. Like playing stuff on hard mode, right? I've already played the easy mode. I want to play hard mode. So it's got a lot of people to the hobby. I'll give it that. But every time they issue one of these weird rules things, it's the same song and dance. A lot of old schoolers scream and yell and cry, and then a lot of new schoolers point at him and say, look, that's old fogey grandpa yelling because things are just changing a little bit. And they're all mad because it just changed a tiny bit. I mean, just because
screaming at the clouds again, man.
Old man yelling at cloud because you old man, your orcs are all evil. Well, guess what? Orcs aren't all evil anymore. Why can't you just play your own game? You stay away from our game. And you can make orcs evil all you want. This is just another in a long line of changes that piss off old schoolers because there's no point in it. It doesn't. I don't get it. It's just not needed. Look, if you want to do this, just say that the DM decides alignment. Whatever
right.
The alignment wants, the DM wants to make it, and I don't get
all
it.
You have to say is, listen, any alignment that you see in any published product is open to interpretation or redefinition by the DM. It's not set in stone. To Kevin Smith, to be fair, alignment is not as good a role-playing tool as ideals, bonds, and flaws. However, it's a key part of world building and lore. Alignment is a shortcut. All right. And I'll say that for the talk. But one of the best things I remember reading, oh my God, this is back in Dragon, probably, I don't know, sometime in the 80s. And it was, you can have two churches of St. Cuthbert have the same alignment, right? But they're different factions and they're at war because they're interpreting the religious lore differently. And therefore, they might be the same alignment, but they are not the same religion, even though they are serving the same God. And I
Mhm.
thought that was an interesting take on how to
Yep.
do things. But this is kind of like, you know what, this alignment stuff, yeah, really, really, what is evil? This almost comes into the whole idea of, well, you could shoplift, but if it's under 1,000, we're not really going to prosecute because you're not evil enough. We're just going to say you're misunderstood. But what if I steal like $999 a day for the rest of my life, and I steal? But you're not now. You know what? You're okay because we 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 here in San Francisco, we're not going to prosecute that.
This
And
got
it
into real
almost
world. This got into
feels
real world politics quickly.
right,
Yes.
but it almost feels like it is an extension of that. It's like, well, devils aren't. Maybe they're just misunderstood.
Orcs aren't evil. Devils. I mean, it's all a matter of your preference, man. If you want to play a game where devils are good and orcs are friendly, I mean, you could just do that. Well, you could always do that. You didn't have to have any official proclamations from WotC saying you're allowed to do this or not. And look, I have had a huge problem with alignments ever since I started playing. We never liked alignments very much. It was always, to me, alignment's one of those things that Gary Gygax put in the game to basically straight jacket people into doing certain things. In other words, I want people to go on this adventure, but they might not want to go on the adventure. I know what I'm going to do. The lawful good paladin has to help people.
Yep.
So I'm going to tell him, unless he goes on this adventure, his god's going to take away all his powers. That's the way I always looked at alignment. It has a lot of bad connotations, and that a bad DM will use it to straitjacket your character, make your character do certain things, or you're going to be punished by the gods for not banning your alignment. It never made a lot of that. Never made a lot of sense to me. I never liked that aspect of the rules. Um, so just to pull the curtain aside, when I have characters, you are not allowed to have a player character be chaotic, evil, chaotic good, lawful evil, lawful good. Your character starts out either neutral good or neutral evil. That's what you are. Then you drift from there. You go from there. So if you're neutral, I'm neutral evil. I only care about myself. Well, if you help the widow down the street by giving her a few coppers, you're going to drift a little bit towards neutral now. You're not quite as neutral evil. And if you start helping out the village, you're going to drift towards neutral evil. If you're neutral good and you rob people and stuff, you're going to start drifting towards neutral evil. Chaotic and lawful should be extremes. That's what they are. They're extremes, right?
Right.
I mean, that's if you're like really, really sure of what you are. And the reason you can say this happens is look at when you try to give a line. Let's say you try to give an alignment to Darth Vader. I have seen 50-page arguments on why Darth Vader is one alignment or another. Nobody can decide what it is because alignment was never really fleshed out enough in the game to really be anything more than just a straight jacket on players' actions. I can see why they want to give it less attention because a lot of people like myself don't really use it the way it was intended anymore. Like I said, everybody in my campaign is either neutral good or neutral evil. Depending on how they act, they can drift one way or the other. It doesn't have any essential effects in the game. Um, most gods will accept, unless you're a paladin and you have to stay either lawful good or lawful evil, because I have evil paladins in my game too. There's no real effect for drifting a little bit this way and a little bit that way. Gods don't care. Gods just want worshippers. They don't care, if you're one extreme or the other, unless they're a god that, the god of paladins wants you to be wants to be a paladin.
Right.
Um, so it's not that important to me, but it's just one in a million other examples over the past few years of how we're gonna water this down. And what they're doing is they're coming out with this game that's not D&D. It's not D&D anymore. It's a generic fantasy game, and I think that's exactly what they want. I don't think they want D&D anymore. There's too much baggage
Well, they
with the
want the
D&D
name.
name.
They want the name because the name, even with baggage, brings in people. It has that name recognition. It's the Kleenex. It's the Xerox. Dungeons and Dragons is RPGs, but they don't want the baggage of prior editions or prior generations holding them back. So we are going to see, this is again the frog in the pot. I had said before, when we see the next version of D&D, and I don't want to call it a new edition because I don't think they're going to change
Mm-hmm.
the core rules. The mechanics are not going to change. That's always been the issue, right? They changed the mechanics from 3X to 4E. They changed the mechanics, and then from 4 to 5, they changed the mechanics. You're not going to change the mechanics, but you are going to change a lot of the interpretation of.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the word fluff because it always reminds me of like somebody working in the porn industry. I'm a fluffer, but
Oh, an admission from Eric there. Wow, that's
no.
hey, whatever you do
Although
in your
I
buddy,
am,
whatever you do in your spare time,
I am a
I'm
little
okay with it.
fluffy. Okay, I'm a little
I'm
fluffy,
okay with it. You got to do what
but
you got to do. I mean, that pension may not be as much as we think it
yeah,
is.
well, but seriously, I mean, you're not if you don't change the mechanics, then everything technically stays compatible. Well, but remember when you're dealing with your older source books, remember alignment is only a tendency; it's not an absolute. So if it says in your book that the orcs you're encountering are lawful evil, they don't have to be. They can be individual. You can have lawful good orcs in that raiding party. Well, then they're not fucking raiders, right? Isn't that the issue there? I mean, if they're orcs and they're tilling the land and they're growing crops, they probably aren't going to be lawful evil. But if they're out there as a raiding party, I think lawful evil is a safe bet.
Well, is so Lou said it's really keep alive languages. That was a terrible, horrible idea. I never
Oh
saw
my
that
god.
used, never used correctly. But Bill says alignments are a game mechanic to help create context. It's not a driver of the game itself. True, but we have all run into that DM that wants to basically control behavior in the party and has sat there and forced your character to do something because of alignment. And you're like, I don't want to do that. Well, you're whatever good, you have to do it. But I don't want to. And,
Right.
and you shouldn't have to act in a way that a game mechanic makes you act. And so, yes, I agree with you, Bill, that it creates context. The problem was it was used as a hammer by a lot of people, especially in the early days. When you didn't, well, the princess comes into the inn and says, "Please save her fiance." Well, we don't want to right now. I guess what's going on? Well, if you don't, I'm gonna dock your alignment because you guys are good and you're not helping somebody. But we don't want to. We want to go do this over here. Nope.
Right.
If you don't do this, I'm gonna knock the paladin down a level because he's lawful good. I'm gonna do this. I mean, it was used as a hammer to make you do what the DM wanted, and that's just crappy, DMing, but that was the purpose of alignment for a lot of these DMs in the early days. And so I don't miss that. I don't miss the fact that it's probably not as important now as it used to be. I do think DMs still use it that way.
Yep.
I know some old school DMs are like, oh, you didn't do this, so this is going to happen to you. Like, well, I don't want,
Uh,
it's much easier just to basically say, look, you just play your character how you want to play your character. I mean, yes, if you want to save the maid 1 minute, then throw her off the cliff in the volcano the next minute, that's a little weird because it's
but
not,
yeah,
I don't really know
that's
what your
that's
alignment
like
is
that's
now.
more like a psychosis going on
Yeah.
there. But all
Uh-huh.
right. Well, here's the thing. I think that Palladium does so many things wrong, but the Palladium system because it has a better take, in my opinion, on alignment because they explain it in terms that aren't obscure.
Hmm.
They give real examples as to what's scrupulous and unscrupulous and the other stuff. It's been a while since I've read my Riffs books. I gotta go back and read it, but I thought they did a pretty good job with that. David Betzak, am I allowed to say Wizards of the Coast is ruining D&D? Not in terms of rules, but in terms of what D&D means. I don't know about ruining. I would say they're
They're
certainly
changing it. They're
changing.
definitely
Yes,
changing it to be. It's not going. And by the time that the 50th anniversary comes around, D&D is not going to resemble anything we played when we were kids. It's going to be a totally different game. Now, it'll probably still be a fun game. It'll probably still bring people in the hobby, but it's going to be unrecognizable because that's what they want to do. That they want to create their own generic fantasy game. It becomes very obvious with every one of these rule changes they make that they're not happy with the things that brought D&D to where it's at. They want to move as far beyond Gygax's name and as far beyond the early 20th, first 20 years of the hobby as they can.
Yeah.
They want to move into their own. They want to own a game that they own. In other words, and they're going to be able to say in 5 years, this is our game that we created. Yes, we use D&D as a you know palette or
Right.
as a
As
as
a
a
base,
as a base,
but
but
it
we've moved
changed.
beyond that now. Now we're doing fifth edition is not D&D anymore. It's this game. They'll still call it D&D because the name has so much cachet to it. But this is what they've been wanting to do. They wanted to eliminate all these past, I guess they call them anchors that just weigh
Yeah.
the game down. And we don't want to do that anymore. We're going to start doing this. We're going to say that, orcs don't have to be evil anymore and dwarves don't have to be this and gnomes don't have to be this way because why? Well, it's because we want to. I mean, this is just something we want to do. We want to, but it's all with one aim in mind, and that's to create their own game so they can sit down there very proudly when 50th anniversary is and say, this is no longer your dad's or granddad's D&D.
Right.
This is a completely different game.
Right. I've never treated alignment as an absolute. Have my PCs in the past captured kobolds and the captured kobold instead of being lawful evil is or goblin is like lawful neutral because they're the runt that was hiding in the back. So now they've got a useful baggage bearer that's going to be loyal so long as they're powerful because he's lawful neutral.
So what are for those that know, what are the alignment of goblins in D&D? Is it
I think it's
neutral
lawful
evil?
neutral. I think it's lawful evil.
Okay,
just
so
like
they're lawful.
orcs.
So they're lawful evil. So just as a matter of fact, we were playing about 15 years ago. My brother Rob, for those who know him, he found they slaughtered a bunch of goblins in a lair. One goblin surrendered. So my brother took this as an opportunity. Like, do you swear fealty to us? Yeah, I'll do whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. His name was Giblet the Goblin. I gave him some dumb name.
Nice.
So he just said, okay, you know what? I'm going to take you under my wing and show you because it turned out so I had to go this whole role playing thing. We're like, why are you doing this and robbing people? Because I feel they made me do it. I'm powerless. I'm this weak goblin, and that's what the hobgoblins made me do it. No, I'm going to raise you as my own, and we're going to teach you how to be a thief, and you're going to be. So I wrote up these crappy stats for the goblin. So my brother took him under his wing. And he started giving him magic items, and they started trusting him with things. And the party started relying on him. He was the pack bearer, but he'd also help out like they're fighting a monster. He'd go in there and stab something in the back and stuff. And so he got this goblin to like 5th or 6th level. At that point, the goblin's not evil anymore because these people have shown him respect and they've given him food and shelter and been real nice to him. There was this one standing joke that when they go to the inn, they made him sleep with the horses, because he was a goblin, nobody would let him in, which makes sense. Most people don't like goblins, but he was like so happy because, oh, this is the best place I've ever slept. And he would snuggle up in the hay with the horse shit and think it was so wonderful. And so it's kind of a running joke with him, like, okay, well, he's happy. If he's happy, I guess it's okay. But everything, so this is all in role playing. Role playing basically turn this goblin from a lawful evil to where, I don't know, he's probably at some point maybe neutral, but he had loyalty to the party, but he wasn't evil anymore. He didn't do evil things. He did what the party wanted to do. That is through play. Right. They basically did this thing. It was never told to him that, goblins can be anything. This is just something that you should think about when you're playing anyway. Is that, alignment has to do with, it's not an absolute, and we know that alignment's not absolute, but it also isn't something that should just be thrown about willy-nilly. Right. It has a point, and the point of this guy was his transformation. He went from lawful evil as a goblin to, at a certain point, he's like a 7th level thief, and he's actually kick ass. Because I think my brother gave him a +4 hand axe he found once, so he's like the baddest ass goblin of all time. He's sitting there just hacking shit right and left. He was a great character. One thing Robert can do is he can play really good characters. I'll have to tell you about his gender neutral bard sometime that was ridiculous. This is like in the 90s too. But he played him absolutely straight. It was great. But well, I don't know if you call him gender neutral as much as he was bi, I guess, because he didn't care who he seduced. He just seduced him.
I'm in for a penny, in for all.
Oh yeah, he didn't care if he got what hey, if he had to seduce a guard to get in somewhere, he just did it. Which was pretty wild in the 90s, when we were playing. But anyway, so this goblin was a great character, and he was a great character because he was supposed to be neutral, lawful evil, and so we had a lot of great role play where people would go up and go, "Oh, that's a goblin," and like he was not evil. And they go, "Well, how did this goblin become not evil?" "Well, because I did this, this." You're just supposed to kill goblins. I mean, they got more than one barroom brawl because they had a goblin with them. And
Right.
some dwarves would be there going, "Why is that piece of garbage coming in here?" They're like, "You better shut your effing mouth. That's our buddy,
Right.
Giblet." And, "Oh, well, you could just F Giblet." And then next thing you know, tables are being broken and, bar stools are being broken over heads and they're having a great time. But that's what the point of alignment serves. It shows you what you can be, but what you can also, change about your character. If you just get rid of alignments totally, then what's the point? Then the goblin you run into, he's never evil. He's just a guy. He's misunderstood, right?
Right.
And it changes the whole aspect of the game.
Listen, in AD&D, I think it was pretty obvious that alignments were not absolute when you saw that every elf in the monster manual was chaotic good, and every dwarf was lawful good, but they didn't. But PCs had no such restrictions, and NPCs had no such restrictions. So I told you, this is a generalization. This is how 90% of that society is. Can there be exceptions? Certainly. Now, John Miller says it is quoting from Chainmail, page 39. It is impossible to draw a distinct line between good and evil fantastic figures. 3 categories are listed below as a general guide for the wargamer
Right.
designing orders of battle. Again, it is meant to be a tool. It was never meant to be absolute. But to say, these things are unaligned or these things are.
But there's degrees though, right, Eric? It's one thing to say Giblet the goblin was maybe not that entirely evil, but another thing to say Beelzebub the devil is not completely evil. He's just misunderstood. He's misunderstood. I mean, give me a fucking break. Come on.
Why must I be misunderstood?
I'm just a devil. I mean, I don't have horns
I'm
and a pitchfork.
Just a devil whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, why must I be misunderstood?
Sure, I torture people and this and that, but
I'm glad
if
Jeremy
I could get
Crawford.
a chance, if I get a chance to get another job, I would do something else. But that's just what I'm doing, man. And Bill Barr.
Jeremy understands me. He understands me as a devil. He gets deep into me and understands.
That's when it gets ridiculous.
By the way, Jeremy, can you sign this contract right here? Okay. Hey, listen, your soul isn't valuable anyway. But just sign it away, and you can be a lead designer on D&D for another.
That's why it's stupid, because I can like I said, Giblet the goblin is one thing. Beelzebub, Mephistopheles the devil is a totally different thing. And Bill said there one thing Lord of the Reviews did, it was 100% correct, was depict orcs are evil. There should be races that are utterly evil. They don't have to be orcs. I mean, maybe orcs in your world aren't entirely evil. Orcs in my world aren't entirely evil. But there should be certain races that, yes, they detest mankind and all the humanoid races. They want nothing more than their death, and they're irredeemably evil. They're irredeemably evil. There's nothing wrong with doing that. There's no reason why you have to be politically correct and say, sometimes Darrow, every once in a while they want to help somebody, or I don't know, Drow aren't that bad sometimes. I mean, if you want to make them evil, just make them irredeemably evil. And especially when you come to creatures like angels or devils or demons, this is just ridiculous to say that, well, sometimes they're not, because I'm going to trick you. I'm going to try to, that way you won't, when you run in a dungeon and see a devil, you won't automatically kill him because maybe it's a good devil. No, it's a fucking devil. They're always fucking evil. Maybe an orc isn't. I can see where an orc isn't always evil. 90% of the time, they're probably evil.
That's Sukabush. She might have actually been a pit-up model.
A cuddly mind flayer.
There you go.
Oh, he's just okay. So this is a true story. You're gonna hear a lot of. I don't care. So anyway, I had a character when we played D&D, and he was called the Disco Mind Flayer because my friend, this an old grenadier figure where devil or mind flayer sitting there with his hands whatever, and he has this robe on, and my friend painted all these colors and stars, and we said that looks like he's in a disco. It doesn't look like a scary mind flayer, and thus was born the disco mind flayer. And so he was a mind flayer that loved disco music. And he would often appear in my dungeons as they'd be on, they're in this low level cavern and they're going through there, and all of a sudden they see a spinning mirror ball, and they walk in there and they go, "Oh, it's a disco mind flayer," and he'd have this disco going, because to me, disco was the ultimate evil, right? I mean, come on, I hated disco back in the day.
Disco
Hated,
sucks, dude. I
so
wrote it on school desks.
disco
Allegedly.
sucks, and so the disco mind flayer was evil because he liked disco, but here was the important thing. You could talk to him and bargain with him and work with him if you're a party of characters smart enough. And the party was too low level to ever try to attack the disco mind flayer. And so they would work out things with him like, "Oh, hey, the disco's looking really good, disco mind flayer." Like, "Yeah, I got some other mind flayers coming later. I got some Umbra Hulks, coming in. They're like, that sounds great. Can you tell us much about what's in the dungeon ahead?" And he would always like share information. So he wasn't entirely evil, but he was pretty evil. But he kind of took a liking to the party. He didn't want to, because they were always very respectful to him and pretended like they liked Donna Summer's music.
Oh,
and Casey and the Sunshine Band.
They really put it on hard.
Oh yeah, they'd be like, "Man, Casey and the Sunshine Band dude really rocks," and it was just funny. It was a funny interlude in the dungeons, but it was also what we're talking about here. He wasn't entirely evil, even though he was a mind flayer and probably would have enjoyed eating their skulls. God, I hadn't thought about this disco mind flayer in ages. I got to find that miniature next time. The disco mind flayer. Anyway. So yes, there could be cuddly mind flayers. They're just like disco though, so which makes them almost irredeemably evil. Actually, I don't mind disco now. I just didn't like it when I was a kid. I can listen to disco now and deal with it, but when I was a kid,
yeah. When I was
a kid, it was the ultimate evil. It was the ultimate evil.
Oh God, yeah, that was my junior high school years. That was it, man. Condor DM makes a valid point. The orc who lives like most orcs will likely be evil. The orc with a different experience may develop a side of themselves most orcs would never experience. Most orcs.
Why not just? Yeah, that's great. Why not just say that though? Why do they have to go through this whole song and dance about not everything? They have to try to act like there's some kind of moral arbiters of us. Like you shouldn't judge everybody. It's all tied in a new age, whatever crap, new wave, whatever, that not everybody, man, it's all cool, good, man. Not everybody's bad. Just bullshit. Like Bill said, sometimes an orc is an orc and they're bad, but yeah, every once in a while, yes, every once in a while. And that's what the story is about. Like if you run into, let's say, an orc paladin, there's a story there, right? Because orcs they're usually evil. How did this orc get to be a paladin? And that should be a story. The way Jeremy Crawford wants to do it, it's just something that happens every day. Oh yeah, this orc is good. This one's not good.
Too much effort for me to remember. Well, who's supposed to be evil and good? Just
make them all whatever.
If you need a good mind flayer, make it a good mind flayer.
It's lazy.
There's no preference.
It's lazy. Instead of making it a story, why is this orc a paladin? There's a story behind it, and it's probably a kick-ass story. Well, oh yeah, because I was an orc baby, and the paladin decided not to kill me because he saw something in me. And he prayed to his god.
Overrode nature.
Look at this great story. I'm going to spin this great story right now. So the paladin finds the orc baby, and he says, "I'm not going to kill this baby." The other paladin's like, "You must kill him." "No, I'm not going to kill him." He raises him. He teaches him ethics and morality and goodness. And this paladin, by the time he's 16 years old, he's touched by the god and he becomes a paladin, and all the other paladins are amazed by it. He still gets a lot of prejudice, right? Because he's an orc, but he has to be better than the paladins, otherwise they won't believe he's good. That is a great backstory. That's a great character. That is an awesome thing. When you just make it so common where you say like, well, any orc can be good or lawful good or whatever, you ruin those kind of stories and you say it doesn't matter.
Well, Sean Pointer. Everybody wants to be different, like Drist, whereas Drist is an exceptional case.
And that's what makes Drist awesome. Because if you've ever read the books, which I read the Salvador books, he came from a society of ultimate evil. It's disgusting. It's horrible. But yet something about him going to the surface, and he was mentored by a ranger guy. He just became different, and that's what makes his story so interesting. If half the dark orcs aren't evil, what's the point? Drist is not exceptional at all. He's just another orc or another drow.
Right.
He's just another dude, and it doesn't make any. There's nothing exceptional about it. And they want to do this, like Eric says, this Care Bear watered down version of D&D, where everybody's just like everybody else. Oh ho hum. This guy orcs can be good, they can be bad. Who knows? They just whatever. Whereas the story is much more powerful when you have Giblet the goblin, who's supposed to be evil, and he gets shown kindness and given food, magic items. Next thing you know, he loves the party, and he's
Yeah.
become good now because he's like, I like these guys. I don't have to be evil and mean and awful and torture the animals and stuff. I can be. There's something better. That is a much better story than any of this garbage bullshit, fucktard, whatever shit that Jeremy Crawford's trying to throw out there now.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Bill Barsh has fighting words for you. When every evil thing can actually be good, there is no real conflict. It's fucking Star Wars: The Next Generation.
Star Trek. I like the Next Generation, Bill. Well, right, and that's why it has to be an exceptional, like you said, like Drist, like Giblet, like the Orc Paladin I'm talking about. It has to be a just a one-off character that's just like, wow, this character is not like every other character. So I had this one character, an NPC. So I had this guy. He was a kobold. He was a kobold, but he was a fighter. He was like 7th level. He had armor specially made for himself, a sword and everything. So he was this NPC that characters run into. He's just, and I can't remember his name or anything, but at one point the characters are walking along this road in the middle of nowhere, and they walk by. There's a fence, and there's this goblin sitting on the fence post, and he's got like armor on, a sword. It's like all beat up and battered. I really gave him a lot of hints. This guy was a badass, right? He's got this armor's like all bloodied and this and that. And he just kind of nods at him like this, like yeah, and they're just kind of like yeah. And so they walk past him. One of the guys is like, wait a second, that's a kobold. We're not going to just kill him. And the other people in the party are going, dude, look at him. He's a badass. He's got a sword. This that. He's just a damn kobold. I'm gonna go over there and kick his ass. Okay, 5 minutes later, this guy got his ass beaten to a pulp by this kobold who just kicked the shit out of him because, like a 7th level fighter, these guys are at 2nd level. But the whole point of that, encounter was to let him know that things aren't always what they seem. Just because
Right.
he's a kobold doesn't mean he can't kick the living shit out of you, which he did that character. And all the other, of course, other players are laughing their ass off because they told this guy to leave the kobold alone because obviously Bad Mike put him there for a purpose. So just leave him alone, walk past him,
No.
just keep on rolling. And this guy had to be there. So, yes, so sometimes you have these lessons you want to teach players, but they're exceptional. Not every kobold they're into was a 7th level fighter. Matter of fact, I don't think I ever had another one in the entire game. But that one was there enough to make him think, ooh, maybe, this guy, and like I said, I gave him warning. He had armor on, he had sword. He wasn't a typical kobold. The same thing with D&D. You have to make these instances exceptional, otherwise they're meaningless. When
Right.
you make every orc can possibly be good, it's bullshit. It doesn't matter. What's the point of even having orcs in? There's no point. It's just stupid.
Right. There's no redemption arc. There's nothing of that sort.
No, and there has to be, and that's a good point you made, Eric. The redemption arc. There has to be this whole thing about, like the story about Giblet. I mean, Giblet became better because people treat him better. That was a whole cool story, and that character actually became a kick-ass character because it's like, wow, that was awesome. This character was a goblin, and I even wrote that into this. They would, like I said, they go places and people would hassle them because they had this goblin with them. Oh, this is a no goblin bar. Why? Well, because we don't allow goblins in here. And like, what? Giblet's a member of our party. Well, and so they get in a big fight and tear up the
Right.
bar. But but it was a whole campaign thing. It was a character driven thing. It was a story driven thing. It was cool. And it just drives me crazy. They're trying to make everything that's interesting and exceptional about D&D. They're trying to make it all vanilla. And no. Devils aren't really evil. They're just misunderstood. Angels aren't all really good. Matter of fact, angels will just fuck you over if they give half a chance.
Well, actually, they might, but besides the point. Oh,
And
yeah,
it just every little drip. It's like the rock, and the water drips on the rock. It drips and drips, and after a while, the rock splits, and then it disintegrates, and then it's gone. That's what these guys are doing to D&D. The drip, 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 and they're making it not D&D anymore. It's generic. It's generic RPG. And yes, it's still going to sell 1 million copies and they're going to make a ton of money. But let me put it this way. The song Physical by Olivia Newton-John held the record for decades as being the longest record at number 1 on the chart for like something like 27 weeks. Was that a good song? No, it's
No,
fucking garbage. So just because something is the most popular or the biggest doesn't mean it's the best or that's the way you should do it.
I suspect what we're going to see is third party publishers doing not necessarily OSR, but they're going to take the 5e rules and reimagine them to be more like a classic D&D type of rule set. And I think that because they're going to want to give an option, like, oh, well, if you don't want to play under this, hey, these are the rules that you understand, but we've packaged them back into something that you remember. And I can see that being a niche that people will be coming to in the next 2 or 3 years. It's going to be an untapped. I expect a lot of Kickstarters to be hitting that because this is, you're going to leave a lot of people behind on this one. It's kind of like, I like Care Bear, but this is a bit too much Care Bear. Maybe just a wee bit. Bill Barsh, D&D's about the diamond in the rough. The PCs are diamonds. Some rare NPCs or monsters are diamonds. What make everything a potential diamond, they have no value.
Exactly the point I'm getting. Sorry for the rant, guys. But it's just this piss.
I
don't know, and I don't
like
know why this pissed me off so much. But it's like I said, it's just a continual erosion of the game. And look, there's a million people out there. They're gonna point and laugh, say you old schoolers, you, blah, blah. I mean, Ben Barsh is gonna say "Okay, boomer" to me and say this is just the way it's done. Bill's son's gonna laugh at me and point and that. But there had. I mean, like I said, at a certain point, you're not playing D&D anymore. You're playing once you get rid of the alignment rules and the demi-human limits and everything can be good and some things are bad. At a certain point, you're farther from the first edition rules than you are closer, and you're going to be so far away that it's literally going to be two totally different games. Like I play 5e, but it's really nothing like you guys. I mean, right now 5e is not that different from 1e. Yes, it's different, but it's still essentially the same game. At a certain point, you're going to move beyond that to where,
you're gonna jump the shark. And yes,
yeah.
Glenn, reimagine like Mythgarther. Yeah, Mythgarther is an early example of taking the 5e rules and making the 5e rules fit a setting, an assumption of what many of us in the old school gaming see to be D&D as opposed to Care Bear D&D. I've been calling 5e that from the start. And I'm glad to see it's getting a little legs now. The Tenkar might have been early.
I'll give you another example of this, Eric. So remember how hard it was in the old days to roll up a paladin and a ranger because you had to have all these
abilities? Oh, don't tell me. Unearthed Arcana.
It was impossible to roll up a cavalier because they didn't want these characters to be common. They didn't want anybody to run a paladin or ranger, whatever. You had to be. You got the rolls just right. Like holy shit! I got 5 14s, and I can actually be a ranger finally. When we're advancing to the point where you're gonna say, "Look, whatever you want to be, just be it. You don't have to." I mean, I guess we're at that point now.
But that's an evolution of the game. Unearthed Arcana gave us what method 5 or whatever the hell it was. Paladins roll 9d6 for charisma, and if you roll less than a 17, you get a 17. So Unearthed Arcana was give the players what they want.
Right. And look, as a DM, I was guilty. Sometimes, you know what? I had a player once that just said, "Look, I've always wanted to run a paladin. I can't roll up a paladin. Can I run a paladin?" And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Because you're right. If you want to be able to play a paladin once in your life, you should be able to play a paladin. And so we changed his charisma to 17. He was a paladin. Nobody was hurt. Nobody got butt hurt, whatever. I can understand that. I understand how that works. But also, once it says, Bill said, when everything is special, nothing is. And so once you have the whole party, because, hey, we all want to be paladins. All right, you're all paladins now. Woohoo! What's the point? Just go. You're playing your own version of D&D at that point. Just go do whatever. If you're happy doing it, fine. But don't call it D&D anymore. Call it whatever game you want to call it.
I mean, folks, if you want to know why we decided to forego having a guest today, this is the reason why. Of course, if we had a guest, they'd be like this. I planned on publishing stuff for 5
years. I repudiate these two. I repudiate them. I love, We don't know. Although I guess we'd have Bill Barsh a guest or Glenn or somebody. They would have been 100% on board with this.
Gary, we need to have you on
Oh,
one day.
oh yeah.
So that'll.
I'll play a paladin. Yeah, we're gonna have Gary. We will have Gary on one day. Gary's along with myself and David. We're the trio running North Texas RPG Con from now on. So we will definitely have Gary on and talk about the con at some
The
point.
Holy
Gary's a great
Trinity.
guy. Yeah, Gary's a great guy. He's a great dude. But yeah, we're trying to get him more into gaming. He's not that big a gaming guy. We're trying to get him all, sucked into gaming like everybody else. But yeah, so this was a rant night. I feel better, Eric. I really feel like I've cleansed myself. I sweated a little bit. I think I sobered myself up from that booze from ranting.
Well, there you go.
I even lost my voice a little bit.
Yeah.
And normally and you can even attest this, Eric. I'm the guy that says run your game however you want to run your game. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. But it's one thing when I say it or you say it at our gaming table. It's another when Watsy decrees it from on high and says, no. Just do whatever you like, man. Whatever feels good.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Oh,
it was just a paper cut. Here's your 9,552nd paper cut. What do you think now?
Yeah, now you're bleeding one hit point every cut. You're in terrible. You're in big trouble.
Unless you're playing 5e, in which case you got to keep on rolling to see if you die. Because you probably won't. Come on. Keep on doing those death saves. And Gary, it will not be a terrible episode. It'll be a good one.
You watch as it gets close to the 50th anniversary. We're going to have more of these announcements. Probably they space them out every 2 or 3 months.
Yep.
We're going to change this one tiny little part of D&D. You're not even going to notice it. It's going to be a great game. You're still going to play it. You're going to have about 10 more of these by 2024. And you watch, they're all going to be like Derek says, death of 1,000 cuts. And by the time we get to 2024, it's going to be like D&D. What the hell is this? This isn't D&D anymore.
I don't remember what this is. It says D&D on the label, and it looks like the iconic D&D, but it's got like playing cards and
it's got like all these different kind of dice that aren't the old dice, and it's got playing cards, and there's all these little tchotchkes like
there's no numbers on these dice because they say we can't do math.
You just choose whatever number you want to roll, and God, yeah.
Oh,
and we're not fighting monsters anymore. I mean, monsters. How dare you fight monsters? That's
No, you fight constructs from your own imagination. You fight your own mental issues. That's what you fight.
Yes.
And then you overcome them and you become bigger and better.
Why do you want to go in the dungeon? What is your real motivation here? You just don't like your father and mother, do you?
You're right. I'm afraid of the dark. It's like I bring a light, but then I don't know anymore.
Yeah, that's the good thing. There is one good thing about this. The good thing is, and I've seen this in the last few years, especially in North Texas, we have a lot of people. And I know, okay, it's not a lot, but we have people that start out, they have never played D&D before. They start with 5th edition. They actually go to old school. And the reason they go to old school is because they're the people who, when they play a video game, put it on the hard. Look, I'm one of those people that put it on easy or normal because I don't like to play hard version.
Right.
I like to win. So these are the people that go to video game that like, I want to put it on hard because I don't want to win easy. Those are the people that say, you know what? I played 5th edition. It was too easy. I like 2nd edition, or I like 3rd edition, or I like 1st edition, because you can die and bad things can happen to you. And this is kind of cool.
Actions have consequences.
Mm-hmm. And so I like that the fact they're starting to drive more people that direction. That people are like, yeah, 5th edition is okay, but we played for a while and it felt. And the problem is 5th edition falls apart. Like, I think it's over level 7, level 9. It just falls apart completely. Whereas D&D doesn't necessarily fall apart. It falls apart maybe about level 15. Definitely keeps you going.
I would say it falls apart around name level.
You think name level? Yeah.
Yeah, because once you start getting the 6th level spells from magic.
Sure. Yeah, you're probably right, Eric.
It's listen. Your players can have a lot of fun pushing through dungeons, but the ability of the DM to give them a challenge that won't kill them on the flip of a coin is hard. So.
So I think that's probably a good idea because I don't think we played a lot of parties over 12th level. That was
Yep.
probably our sweet spot.
That's why.
But the thing about D&D that's great is the most fun levels everybody loves are levels 1 through 3, right? Because you're struggling for every copper piece. It's so tough. And 5th edition just zips over that part. You're level 4 before you know, in 3 adventures in, you're level 4. And it skips over that part. It tries to get you hooked, but the problem is the game absolutely falls apart levels 7 through 9. You become too powerful for anything to ever hurt you ever. And so at least old school D&D that doesn't fall apart for quite a bit longer, and it takes a lot longer to go up levels.
Yes,
you could play for 2 or 3 years and not be 12th level yet. Whereas D&D 5.0, the whole point of D&D 5.0 is kind of like Pathfinder. They want you to start another. Pathfinder's idea, I remember reading this, was they want you to begin a new campaign once every 2 years. They don't want you to play the same party of characters more than 2 years. So they put you from level 1 to level whatever in 2 years' time. And then that way you start over again and you play another adventure path. You play whatever other adventure path is there. That's what D&D 5.0 is becoming, is that, yeah, we don't want you to stick with these characters a long time. We just want you to play a couple we want you to play Tomb of Annihilation. Then we want you to play this one. Then we want you to play this one. We don't want you to get stuck on one group of characters.
I think what their aim is, and I'm literally just shooting from the hip here, is that by lowering the barriers, lowering the difficulties to come into gaming, they're hoping to expand their player base. And if they lose players to old school gaming, to Pathfinder, to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, if they're gaining 2 million players and they're losing 1 million, they gained 1 million. And that's
and they're probably, honestly, they're probably not losing 1 million, Eric. They're probably losing,
no, they're probably not
50,000. But for them, that they don't care. But that's good for the OSR, because you know what, 50,000 matters to the OSR. That's good for us. So
that's huge for us.
Yes, keep losing those people. We'll take them in. We'll take those guys that don't want to play games on the easy level. We'll absolutely take those guys in.
Please take him in. Please,
I'm rented out today. I'm going to go home, watch Squid Games, drink another whiskey, and just chill.
You got like bonus content today, folks. Really. Few quick things, kind of like record keeping or updating stuff. If you want to sponsor an episode, whether it's Talking Crit, whether it is a regular 10 to 15 minute episode that I record, whether it's Friday night with myself and Joe, or me and Glenn, or whether it's Gamers Health, if you want to sponsor, so there's no ads in that episode, email me, tenkars.tavern@gmail.com. Don't hit me with a Facebook message and stuff like that. I need to get it all in one place. I actually have printing out calendars so I can write down who and what. And Mike will supply me at some point with a PayPal address we can send those funds to, and allow that to go where it needs to go.
It's going to help support the con. Thanks to Eric very much for doing that. That's just amazing. We're gonna, every little bit's gonna help. We're okay financially, but it helps. Auction stuff. We make most of our money from auctions, from raffles, and obviously from tickets and merch sales. So it's
so now it's going to be for the live streams, which are 2 hours long, which is Wednesday and Friday. It's going to be $25. Bill is saying he's going to do 2 Wednesday nights per month. Lock it in.
Wow.
Right. We're going to lock Bill in.
Thank you, Bill. That is awesome, man.
When it comes to Gamers Health is a shorter live stream. That'll be the same as a regular daily episode, $10. It means that people don't have to watch ads. We are monetized. The only reason why I'm monetized is making a little extra money towards supplies for Mike and I. Maybe I'll update his headset, something that's fucking wireless, and he can join the rest of us. But folks,
I would do that. That'd be awesome. I like wireless. My mouse is wireless. I do wireless.
Folks, that's where the advertising dollars that come through YouTube will go to. But when you want to actually support the convention, or support something that the convention is going to be doing, like providing an emergency account to help the old guard in their times of need. That's what your sponsorship is going to do, and that will negate advertising on that episode. I'm happy with that. I think that's even better. So if the way to get you to advertise is to us push out ads through YouTube and then say, hey, you can go back to having no more ads if you sponsor, you'll be known for doing a great deed. You'll be helping out the con. You'll be helping out the old guard. And in the episodes that aren't sponsored, we'll get Mike a new headset sooner or later.
Gary says, "Can I sponsor my own episode?" Man, the ego on this guy, I swear.
All right. So, and the other person I got to Glenn, you'll be the next in line. You've already gotten a recent upgrade. So,
Glenn and I we're from the same generation, brother. Yeah. If it
can
doesn't
you
hook up,
sponsor your own episode? You certainly can, Gary. I don't know why you'd want to, but yes.
Oh, that's funny.
So, folks, listen, we're in the midst of the world of COVID. I'm not telling you what to do, Mike, and myself. We're not medical professionals. However, use your common sense to keep yourself, your friends, your family, your loved ones healthy and safe. If you're not healthy, you can't help others. Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice. And I'll be back tomorrow. And if you're hanging around on the Discord server tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we have a hangout in the Speakeasy at Tenkar's Tavern.
Oh, yeah. It's always fun.
You never know. You never know who's going to show up. Well, I'll show up. But other than that, you don't know who else will show up.
I missed it last week. I forget some weeks. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
No, I was there.
You came in for a bit.
Yeah. Later, guys. Great to see everybody.